Chapter 1000. Ah. What? Zizizi. Kacha kacha kacha. Amidst the screams of countless people, Chen Hao opened his mouth and roared. A terrifying devouring power surged around his body. He actually began to devour the violent thunder energy that Xiang Tiange had burst out. This attack contained the profound mysteries of the Thundercrash spear art. It had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. Even a planet could be destroyed, but Chen Hao, he was actually devouring it. Ah! When Tanlan screamed, her pretty face was full of horror. Looking at Chen Hao's blood-red, crazy and empty eyes, when Tanlan recalled the time she had spent with Chen Hao, she was filled with panic for no reason. It was the panic of losing Chen Hao. Boom! Just when everyone thought that Li Mubai had really gone mad, Chen Hao's body, which was filled with endless thunder and lightning, did not explode. Instead, it expanded at an astonishing speed. 100 times, 1,000 times bang. At the same time as the Taoist robe shattered, a resplendent immortal light bloomed. At some point, Chen Hao had already put on the soft armor that the fifth Grand Elder had given him under the Taoist robe, preventing him from being naked in front of everyone. At this time, all the cultivators who were paying attention, including the big shots in the cultivation world, and the divine senses in the void, widened their eyes in horror. Even the fifth Grand Elder and Tian Wanxiang, who had long known the secret of Li Mubai's body, were no exception. In any case, they did not expect Li Mubai's body to expand to such a terrifying extent. Moreover, it was still expanding. Roar! In the blink of an eye, he had swelled to nearly 3,000 times his original size, turning Chen Hao into an oval-shaped balloon. He let out another furious roar, and the instant he opened his mouth, he spat out endless thunderbolts. However, at this moment, as if he was about to explode and die, his body emitted crackling sounds. His balloon-like bloated body, although it was still expanding, at this moment, it became solid. Moreover, as it grew larger and larger, his appearance and figure became more and more similar to his original appearance and appearance. The only difference was that he had become thousands of times larger, turning into a giant that looked down on the world like a mountain. Dash! How is this possible? Xiang Tiange was dumbfounded. No matter how crazily he activated his energy god art, he still couldn't destroy Li Mubai, who was bearing all of his energy god art, even when he was almost drained of all his energy. At this moment, in front of Chen Hao, he was like a tiny ant. My god! Is he still a human? 10 times transformation. It's too terrifying. Great change technique, 10,000 times giant body. How strong is his physical body? Everyone was stunned. The figures in the void all sucked in a breath of cold air. He had already estimated Chen Hao's potential to a great extent. Unexpectedly, he still underestimated him. Roar! Just as Chen Hao roared again, his mountain-like body, which was surrounded by thunder and lightning, suddenly shook. The endless thunder and lightning suddenly disappeared, as if they were all suppressed into his body. At the same time, he lifted his mountain-like foot, as if he was stepping on an ant, and stomped toward Xiang Tiange, who was in shock and horror. Qi! At this moment, Xiang Tiange suddenly turned into a stream of flowing light, soaring into the sky. The unyielding character and powerful strength of a monstrous genius were vividly displayed at this moment. He became one with the thunder spear, as if he had torn apart the void, and stabbed toward the giant Chen Hao's glabella as fast as lightning. Fatal blow. The ultimate mystery of the thunder spear technique, instant kill technique. This was a technique that condensed one's potential into one move. If it succeeded, the opponent would die, and if it failed, he would not have the strength to fight back. Ah! The situation had reversed too quickly, and once again there were exclamations of surprise. Zhou Qinglong, the sissy pervert, opened his mouth and stuck out his tongue. His orchid fingers condensed in the air, and his eyes were shining with the light of worship. Looking at the mountain-like Chen Hao, he suddenly froze. Her heart was beating so fast that it was thumping. Ruthless enough. Fortunately, I have never fought with him, or else both sides would be injured, or even perish together. One of the 9 monstrous geniuses said in shock. The other people's pupils also shrank. Obviously, they did not feel any better, and were very afraid of Xiang Tiange's attack. No one would have thought that at this time, Xiang Tiange would display the ultimate mystery of the Thunder Spear technique. If one was stabbed, then one's primordial spirit would definitely be destroyed. But at this time, the mountain-like giant Chen Hao's body shook and disappeared into thin air. Great teleportation technique. The virtual shadow in the void shouted in horror. Bang. Chen Hao's enormous body was like a ghost. Not only did he avoid Xiang Tiange's fatal spear at the critical moment, but he also flashed and kicked Xiang Tiange, who had exhausted all his energy, away like a rubber ball. Boom, like a meteor across the sky. When he was in the air, his body made an explosive sound. Condense. Chi. Just at this moment, a ray of light suddenly poured down from the void. It seemed extremely slow, but it also seemed like there was no gap in time. It enveloped Xiang Tiange's body. His body, which was about to collapse, suddenly stopped exploding. Little guy, you have a sense of propriety, not bad. While they were worried about Xiang Tiange, no one knew that the virtual shadow's voice sounded in Chen Hao's mind. It's just a competition. It's a pity that such a monstrous genius died. Everyone should cherish their own life, whether it's for themselves or others. Chen Hao said indifferently in his mind. Well said. The old man underestimated you after all. However, there are still 8 rounds. Everything has its weakness, and you may not be able to win all of them. Thank you for reminding me. Reincarnation, awakening, this life, the previous life, it's all me. Senior, you don't have to be wary of me. I don't think I'm an outsider. The Great Tao is not heartless. It seems that although you're only at the Great Luo realm now, you can also reincarnate with the old man. Very well, if I continue to call myself the old man, I'll be a little arrogant. Before you reincarnate, you should not be worse than the old man. Sorry, senior, before reincarnation, I can only fully awaken when I reach a certain realm. Now, I've only awakened a little, Chen Hao said. After knowing that the other party did not know the real reason why he was here, Chen Hao naturally would not be so stupid as to say that he was not a native of the chaos after reincarnation. The old man naturally knows that you don't know, but the old man can judge that the great teleportation skill is not something that anyone can cultivate, and not everyone has the heart to cultivate it. And your body is not something that ordinary people can have. Well, you can continue to prepare for the next round. Chapter 1001. Xiang Tiange, who had already arrived outside the arena, had a lingering fear and a pale face. If not for the timely intervention of the immortal scripture city master, his physical body would have collapsed at this moment. However, as a top monstrous genius, he who had experienced countless life and death battles, faintly felt that this was not entirely because of the city master's intervention. If Li Mubai had directly used the overwhelming energy the moment he kicked him, his body would definitely have exploded, and there would be no time to rescue him. The 8 monstrous geniuses stared at this scene, and their expressions became solemn. Even Zhou Qinglong, the sissy, recovered a rare bit of a man's expression. Li Mubai, Sitiqian and Zhang Chong clenched their fists and loosened them again. A deep sense of despair and powerlessness emerged in their hearts. Xiang Tiange, one of the top monstrous geniuses in the chaotic vast thousand worlds, and he had been famous for a long time, was defeated by Li Mubai. What kind of concept was that? Even if they had obtained the immortal scripture magic treasure, the chances of them being able to fight against Li Mubai in this lifetime were slim. The legendary Great Change technique and Great Teleportation technique, Li Mubai actually used 2 of them. Amazing. Really amazing. Do you remember how Dandinga left when he obtained the 30th immortal scripture magic treasure? He disappeared silently. I'm afraid he used a method to conceal his aura, combined with the Great Teleportation technique. I feel that Li Mubai should be the real Dandinga. Xiang Tiange, who is so strong, lost. Who else could it be except for Dandinga, who could obtain 30 immortal scripture magic treasures? Qi. Nguyen Tanlan suddenly turned into a stream of light, and flew excitedly to the arena where Chen Hao was. Mubai. Like a little bee, Nguyen Tanlan flew up to Chen Hao's empty eyes. She looked at Chen Hao with an admiring gaze and shouted, "Can you restore your original appearance? You've won. Put away the medallion, and let's go back." Hearing Nguyen Tanlan's words, Chen Hao suddenly stretched out his hand. "Qi." With a flash of light, Nguyen Thanh Lan stood on his hand. Soon after, he who still maintained his giant form took out the token and stepped out of the arena. The surrounding cultivators who had won and lost immediately scattered in all directions. Fuck, that was a towering mountain. If they were not careful, they would have been trampled on like ants. Nguyen Thanh Lan blushed. Being placed in the palm of Chen Hao's hand, she couldn't help but feel a sense of security from the depths of her heart. Even if the sky fell, this big guy would definitely hold it up with her. Just as Nguyen Thanh Lan was slightly intoxicated, Chen Hao sat down cross-legged. Suddenly he flipped his hand, as if he was going to put her down. However, Nguyen Thanh Lan, who was unprepared, fell directly. Nguyen Thanh Lan didn't think much of it. After a scream, she directly summoned her energy and slowly landed on Chen Hao's body. However, at this moment, many people around suddenly widened their eyes, revealing a strange and wretched light. At the same time, Chen Hao was also stunned in his heart. Coincidentally or not, Nguyen Thanh Lan landed right in the middle of his crotch. On Chen Hao's body, which was 10,000 times larger than his, Nguyen Thanh Lan was not much bigger than an ant. Moreover, Nguyen Thanh Lan paused for a moment before rising into the air again and flying onto Chen Hao's shoulder. Mubai, are you unable to shrink for the time being? Do you need to refine the energy you devoured? Although Nguyen Thanh Lan knew that Chen Hao wouldn't answer, she still asked. After asking, she continued. Then let's wait for you to recover first. Then we'll return to the palace. The second round will only be held tomorrow. Qinglan Li Mubai, is it Dandinga? At this moment, Gao Xiangqing's divine thought floated over. Nguyen Thanh Lan was slightly stunned. She said, Master, this disciple doesn't know if he's... You're already Dao companions with him, haven't you always been together? No, he might be, or he might not be. When I was immersed in cultivation, I don't know if he went out. Nguyen Thanh Lan said. She couldn't admit it, but of course as her master, she couldn't deny it either. The 30 Immortal Sutra treasures were already on her, but what if Li Mubai woke up and asked her for them? Therefore, she definitely couldn't tell her master the truth at this time. Otherwise, if her master took a few of the Immortal Sutra treasures, it would be troublesome. All right, it doesn't matter if he is or not, you're now his Dao companion. You've lost your primordial Yin body, so your future can only be entrusted to him. 3 Immortal Sutra treasures. Even compared to the top monstrous geniuses, you're not inferior. This disciple will do her best. After all, he's in the demonic realm. As for what will happen after he wakes up, this disciple can't be sure. Nguyen Thanh Lan said bitterly in her heart. She naturally knew that her master was doing it for her own good, but what her master didn't know was that of the 3 Immortal Sutra treasures, 2 of them were obtained with the help of Li Mubai. The other one might be the same as Zhang Chong and Situ Qian, possibly because of Li Mubai. How could the real her compare to a beautiful and talented monstrous girl? In the cruel world of cultivation, in order to pursue the peak of martial arts, no one would give up a Dao companion who could help them improve and achieve greater achievements just because of pity for others. You must have confidence in yourself. This disciple understands. Previously, Gao Xiangqing couldn't wait for Li Mubai to stop pestering Nguyen Thanh Lan. At this time, however, he couldn't wait for Li Mubai to be with his disciple. Such a change was unexpected, but Gao Xiangqing didn't hesitate at all. Even if he was ridiculed by Tian Wanxiang, it didn't matter. Everything was for his disciple to achieve greater achievements. It was worth it. In the martial arts practice field, the fierce battles were coming to an end. Only a few opponents who were equal in strength were still clenching their teeth and fighting. But the arenas where the battles had ended also disappeared. In the 256,000 battles, the defeated cultivators were all dejected. They were more or less injured, and many of them were seriously injured. However, none of them died or their physical bodies were destroyed. And all of this was done by the shadow in the void with the strength of one person. This shadow controlled 256,000 battles at the same time. Its strength was unfathomable. Countless people didn't even pay attention to the battle arenas. Instead, they paid attention to the giant Chen Hao and Nguyen Thanh Lan on his shoulder. Chen Hao's mountain-like body made cracking sounds from time to time, and was shrinking bit by bit. Moreover, as time went by, the speed of shrinking became faster and faster. Before the battle ended, Chen Hao returned to his normal state. The moment his hollow eyes opened, endless lightning flashed. At this time, Nguyen Tanlan, who had jumped down from Chen Hao's shoulder, didn't hesitate at all. She stepped forward and held Chen Hao's hand. The two of them turned into a stream of light, leaving the shocked crowd behind. In such a short time, the terrifying energy and magical power of Xiang Tiange's Thundercrash spear technique were completely refined. Chapter 1002. On this day, the name of the Hunyuan sect's Li Mubai spread throughout the entire cultivation world through the almighty cultivators present. The title of Dandinga, who had obtained 30 Immortals Sutra magic treasures, was forcefully crowned on Li Mubai's head, even though no one had any conclusive evidence. Defeating the Thunder Spear Xiang Tiange, a top genius, directly elevated Li Mubai to the ranks of the top geniuses in the entire chaotic, boundless world. This also made the Hunyuan sect, who had lost face in the previous Immortals Sutra Holy Land final competition, feel greatly elated after failing to even let a single disciple enter the Immortals Sutra Holy Land. Li Mubai, Nguyen Tanlan, Situqian and Zhang Chong. Just the fact that the four of them had obtained Immortals Sutra magic treasures was enough to cause a sensation in the entire cultivation world. Not to mention that Nguyen Tanlan had obtained 3 Immortals Sutra magic treasures alone. And Li Mubai was the legendary Dandinga, who had obtained 30 Immortals Sutra magic treasures alone. When the Hunyuan sect's sect master and the cultivators of the Hunyuan sect received the news, they could not believe it was true. In particular, the elders and disciples who had previously rewarded Li Mubai with the right to enter the secret grotto heaven were even more dumbfounded. Similarly, the second-rate academy where Li Mubai was in was also dumbfounded and shocked. Clap, clap, clap. In the palace in the cultivation room, Chen Hao and Nguyen Tanlan were once again immersed in the soul and body fusion. Of course, this was initiated by Nguyen Tanlan. Today, Chen Hao did not wake up during the great battle, which was undoubtedly something that made Nguyen Tanlan very happy. Naturally, she would not waste any time. She was not as optimistic as her master, because she knew her own capabilities. He was even more aware of how terrifying Li Mubai was. The more this was the case, the more she had to cherish this limited time. Each of the 9 monstrous geniuses has a very strong aura. No one else is weaker than Xiang Tiange. Nguyen Tanlan didn't know that Chen Hao, who was immersed in the dual cultivation, was still able to spare some of his attention to consider the current situation. If I want to defeat them, I have to enter the true state of madness. This means that my true combat strength is far inferior to theirs, especially in terms of absolute power. It seemed that Chen Hao had won the battle easily. However, only he knew that things were not as simple as they seemed. At the beginning of the match, after sensing his opponent's aura, Chen Hao directly released the unbearable pain sealed in his mind from the macro world in his mind, directly entering the true state of madness. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to match up to his opponent in terms of absolute power. Not to mention winning, it would already be a miracle if he didn't suffer heavy injuries. After he had truly entered the state of madness, his combat strength had definitely increased by several times. However, even so, his victory over Xiang Tiange was still thrilling. Daoyuo Jinqian's perfect realm. No matter how talented a cultivator is, he still needs time to accumulate. I still have a long way to go. This was also the reason why the older the Daoyuo Jinqian was, the more powerful he was. In fact, it was the same for every realm. However, when a Daoyuo Jinqian advanced to the Hongming realm, the barrier between realms was incomparable to any other. Many people were imprisoned in this realm for hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, or even their entire lives, unable to break through. Those who could advance to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm after being imprisoned for tens of thousands of years were all top geniuses. Such a long period of time would naturally cause a huge gap in combat strength between cultivators of the same realm. Of course, more importantly, after reaching this realm, rapid advancement didn't necessarily mean that one would become stronger or more monstrous. Otherwise, monstrous geniuses like Xiang Tiange, Yin Xian, and Zhou Qinglong would have already triggered divine punishment and advanced to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. The reason was simple. Hongming Qi and the Great World Imprint. the stronger and deeper the understanding of Hongmeng Qi, the stronger one would be after advancing to the Hongmeng realm. The more perfect the Great World imprint was, the stronger the embryonic form of the Great World would be. Once one stepped into the Hongmeng realm, the heavenly Tao of the Great World would be even more perfect, and the degree of improvement would also be greater. This was the most fundamental thing. It was something that had been finalized in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. Once one broke through to the Hongmeng realm, it would be thousands of times more difficult to perfect the embryonic form of the Great World. You reap what you sow. This was the logic behind it. The quality of the embryonic form of the Great World would determine what one would obtain after stepping into the Hongmeng realm. There are still 8 matches left. I have to win, and I have to win strongly. The stronger the divine powers, battle techniques, and strength, the better. Chen Hao thought to himself. He was very clear about his current situation. It was not that he did not believe in the master of the immortal scripture sacred ground, but he had always believed that the entire world of cultivation was a world where the strong were respected. This was the case in the primordial chaos vast thousand worlds, and it was the same in the chaotic vast thousand worlds. The master of the immortal scripture sacred ground naturally treated him with respect not because he was afraid of him. Of course, this was what the master of the immortal scripture sacred ground thought. He was also afraid of the vast thousand worlds that he belonged to. Then, the stronger the talent, battle strength, potential, and divine powers he displayed, the less the master of the immortal scripture sacred ground would make things difficult for him. Just as Chen Hao's strand of consciousness was still thinking, he suddenly felt that Nguyen Tanlan's peak had come very quickly this time. It had only been a short while, and she was about to explode. She's really hardworking. It's really rare to see a woman with such a strong obsession to reach the peak of martial arts. Hiss! Chen Hao put away this strand of consciousness, and wholeheartedly integrated into the graceful and tender body that was tossing and turning under his body. Although he did not want to admit it, he had to say that, at this time, no matter how strong a man's will was, he would immerse himself in the lower body to think about the most primitive throbbing of human beings. There was no other way. If he lost interest in this feeling, he was afraid that he was not a man, or at most, a sissy and pervert like Zhou Qinglong. The next day, when Chen Hao and Nguyen Tanlan appeared at the martial arts practice field hand in hand, Chen Hao did not feel anything, but Nguyen Tanlan, who coiled her hair and held Chen Hao's arm, became more and more natural and comfortable, as if she no longer had any psychological burden about the identity of Li Mubai's Taoist companion. What was even more surprising was that Nguyen Tanlan's abundant essence, energy and spirit, and the invisible aura of harmony that bloomed around her body, were clearly stronger than yesterday. Even though everyone knew that the two were definitely cultivating the fusion of yin and yang, Nguyen Tanlan's improvement was really too shocking. One day was different. Even if the palace had the laws of time and space, it was really too fast. Gao Xiangqing, Situqian, and the others who knew Nguyen Tanlan's talent and potential were all shocked. They understood that all of this was because of Li Mubai. And it was very likely that it was related to Li Mubai's demonic frenzy realm. In their minds, perhaps Li Mubai's demonic frenzy realm could give Nguyen Tanlan great benefits during dual cultivation. Of course, this was only a guess. After all, none of them had experienced the fusion of yin and yang in the demonic frenzy realm. Chapter 1003. What? Thunder Spear Art. How is this possible? In the second battle, Chen Hao once again faced one of the 9 great monstrous geniuses. In the state of madness, he was still holding the Overlord spear in his hand, his aura soaring to the heavens. But the most shocking thing was that the moment he struck, the endless spear radiance contained the mystery of the Thunder Spear art that Xiang Tiange was proficient in. This caused the entire martial arts field to explode. The elders of the cultivation world watching the battle all cried out in shock. The illusory figure in the air was slightly shocked, and Xiang Tiange, who had already been eliminated, but still had the qualifications to watch the battle, sucked in a breath of cold air, his eyes wide open in shock. What the? Is this still a human? After countless years of painstaking practice, he had finally reached the ultimate level of the Thunder Spear technique, the best spear technique in the chaotic vast thousand worlds. However, Li Mubai had actually secretly learned it by exchanging blows with him. He did not believe that the other party was able to obtain the mantra of the Thunder Spear art. That was simply impossible. There was only one explanation. Yesterday, after the other party had completely devoured his energy and divine ability, he had comprehended the mystery of the Thunder Spear art from it. The state of madness. It must be the state of madness that gave him a terrifying comprehension ability. Almost in an instant, countless people thought of this possibility. The state of madness was an existence that was even more difficult to obtain than enlightenment. In this state, the eruption of potential was undoubtedly all round. Apart from this explanation, no one would believe that Li Mubai's comprehension ability was so strong that he could comprehend the mystery of the Thunder Spear art in one day. But in the air, the illusory figure of the immortal scripture Sacred Ground frowned slightly. He knew that Chun Hao was in a state of clarity, but at the same time, he also discovered that Chun Hao could enter the true state of madness at any time. This also meant that the state of madness that cultivators yearned for had become an inherent ability of Chun Hao. Then in this state, with such shocking comprehension ability, what kind of secret technique could he cultivate? Not to mention other cultivators at this moment, even he was a little envious and jealous. To be able to give birth to such a monstrous genius, just how strong is it? And he also possesses the great teleportation technique, the great abnormality technique, and these were all displayed by him. The immortal scripture Sacred Ground controller began to ponder. In the second battle, Chun Hao's Overlord Spear contained the mystery of the Thunder Spear art. Although his comprehension of the Thunder Spear art was far inferior to Xiang Tiange, but with his exquisite battle techniques, he was able to unleash to the fullest. When the spear struck out, thunder rumbled, and it was incomparably violent. However, the attacks were all aimed at the weakest points of the monstrous genius's divine ability. It was clearly a very violent and powerful spear technique, but it used a purely offensive stance to force the opponent into a completely defensive stance. In the end, this battle lasted for a full 4 hours after all the matches had ended. The monstrous genius let out a hysterical roar and left the arena. He did not even use his ultimate move. It wasn't that he didn't want to. Firstly, Chun Hao's attacks were too violent. He didn't even give him a chance to breathe. Secondly, once he used his ultimate move, according to yesterday's situation, his chances of winning were still very small. With these two situations stacked together, there was no need for him to use it at the risk of being seriously injured, or even having his body destroyed. There was really no need. In the second battle, Chun Hao displayed such astonishing battle techniques that seemed to be innate. To a certain extent, it consolidated the information that Li Mubai had stepped into the ranks of the top monstrous geniuses. At the same time, some cultivators who did not know the truth also realized that the 9 monstrous geniuses who should not have appeared here must have come because of Li Mubai. And they could basically confirm that this was the intention of the immortal scripture Sacred Ground controller. Otherwise, it would be impossible to be so lucky to encounter the 9 monstrous geniuses. And the appearance of the 9 monstrous geniuses because of Li Mubai also made Dandinga's identity even more certain that he was Li Mubai. To be able to obtain 30 immortal scripture magic treasures at the same time, and to be able to grab them one by one, besides Li Mubai in the demonic realm, who else could do this? But why did the immortal scripture Sacred Ground controller do this? It was not something that everyone could measure. And in the third battle on the third day, Chun Hao powerfully displayed his ultimate move that shocked everyone, the Great 5 Elements art, and won again. On the 4th day, the 5th day, the 6th day, and the 7th day, every single battle stimulated everyone's nerves and bottom line, and every single battle could erupt with ultimate techniques that exceeded everyone's imagination. Extreme physical strength, terrifying soul attacks, pure and shocking slaughter will, and sword Dao will that was high to the point that it completely surpassed the golden immortal realm. Under Chun Hao's all-out performance, the controller of the immortal scripture Sacred Ground became more and more shocked. 5th Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang had long been numb. Such a scene, how could he still be his disciple? Or rather, how could he still be qualified to be his master, to teach and dispel doubts? This display of strength that was more and more beyond imagination made 5th Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang feel calmer and calmer. He felt that the feelings between him and Li Mubai were gradually fading. This was also a very helpless matter. Although they knew that Yi Shiwen was their own disciple, he had suddenly become another person that surpassed their understanding. In the end, it affected their hearts. If Chen Hao was weaker and did not display too many powerful divine abilities and ultimate moves, and did not display those exquisite combat skills, perhaps their feelings for Li Mubai would be deeper. But now, they knew that their disciple should be an outsider from the endless cycle of reincarnation, and had completely awakened. Although he was still under the control of his subconscious, but in this situation, once he awakened, it was impossible for him to return to the past. It was a very contradictory mentality. On his path to becoming an expert, without their blood, sweat, and tears, he would not be moved and resonated with. If they were his cultivation companions, accompanying and helping him along the way, witnessing his growth, the nature and feeling would be completely different. Zhou Qinglong, it's up to you. The 8 of us have been defeated consecutively. Whether or not we can regain some face, it's up to you. If you can't win, you can at least not lose. Tie him down. Yes. To be honest, I've never seen such a monstrous guy. I'm a little suspicious, whether it's because of the Berserk Demon Realm. I'm also very suspicious. The appearance of the Berserk Demon Realm in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland is already very rare. After it appeared, being able to immerse himself in it is even more inconceivable. But he can actually do it as he pleases. When the battle is over, he completely erupts, and after the battle, all of his divine sense is sealed. It's fine if it's sealed, but through a battle, he can comprehend our ultimate moves. This is too much of a sissy, a monster. Also, did you hear that 300 years ago, he was still trash, not even worthy of carrying our shoes? Hehe. You guys are so stupid. I've already thought of a possibility. It's normal for you guys to lose to Brother Little Egg. At this moment, Zhou Qinglong, this sissy, stretched out his orchid fingers, tilted his head, and rolled his eyes as he looked at everyone. Chapter 1004. What's possible? Yin Xian, who had just finished today's battle and was still covered in blood, asked immediately. He who had obtained the Fire Lotus Immortal Seal, thought that even if he couldn't defeat the other 8 geniuses, he would at least have the upper hand, and his strength would definitely rank first. However, today he was the one to fight, and the last one to fight was the sissy Zhou Qinglong. It's very simple. Brother Little Egg, it should be Li Mubai and Little White. Don't you think so? That's right. In the test of the Crystal Palace, he and his cultivation partner finished in less than a day, which is enough to prove that their understanding of the Immortal Sutra and their immortal fate is extremely strong. His cultivation partner, Nguyen Tan Lan, was able to obtain 3 Immortal Sutra magic treasures, which is also very good proof. Other than Li Mubai, no one else could have such a strong immortal fate. Yes, dum-dum, think about it. How could the Immortal Sutra Sanctuary stop Little White, who has such a strong immortal fate? That's what we don't understand. Zhou Qinglong, don't keep us in suspense. Will it kill you to say it all in one breath? Hey, little Xian, he's not in a hurry. Why are you in such a hurry? You have to eat one bite at a time, and speak one sentence at a time. Don't you think so? Don't you think so? Yin Xian glared at Zhou Qinglong angrily. After a long while he could only say, you go on. That's a good boy. Since the Grandpa Controller wants us to stop Little White from entering the Immortal Sutra Sanctuary, it must be because he doesn't want him to comprehend the real 3 Immortal Sutras. Trash. Go on. Little White is so handsome and has such a strong immortal fate. Why does the controller hate him? Sissy, you fucker, after beating around the bush, it's still the same. What the fuck are you talking about? At this time, Xiang Tinga couldn't stand it anymore. Dum-dum, can't you have some patience? Just by looking at this point, we can't figure it out, right? Then have you ever wondered why Little White was so weak 300 years ago, but now, he's stronger than you 8 idiots? Also, according to the news, Little White wasn't this handsome and charming before. Ioyo, he's really handsome. Don't worry, I'm a little excited when I think about it. He reconstructed his golden body, and looked like a completely different person. What does this mean? Everyone was slightly taken aback. And Little White has defeated all of you in 8 battles over the past 8 days. Many of the divine abilities and laws that he used are legendary. Even the sect master of the Hunyuan sect wouldn't be able to use them. Little fools, have you thought of anything? Wasn't she very smart? This time, the 8 of them did not have any reaction to Zhou Qinglong's disgusting act. All of them frowned. Immediately they looked towards the sissy and said, "Endless cycle of reincarnation. Outsiders?" There was a look of horror in everyone's eyes. Without a doubt, this was the only possibility that could explain why the controller had summoned them to stop Li Mubai, who had a strong immortal fate, from entering the sacred place of the Immortal Sutra. If that's the case, why didn't the controller kill him directly? It's not as simple as you think. How strong is the vast 1,000 domains that could give birth to such a monstrous genius like Li Mubai? No one in the endless cycle of reincarnation can really kill him before he recovers to the realm he was at before he reincarnated. Since he has reincarnated to our vast 1,000 domains, with his current realm, even if he dies, he can only reincarnate here. When he awakens again, he will carry the memories of this life. Will he still be discovered by us? Once he steps into the cutting path true immortal, or the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, with his terrifying talent, he can leave the vast 1,000 domains and leave a mark. If he bears a grudge against the controller, what will happen? That's right. The controller asked us to stop him, but did not directly block him outside. This is enough to show that the controller does not want to incur a grudge with him. If I'm not wrong, after the sacred place of the Immortal Sutra ends, he will be directly sent to the Hongming domain by the controller, and cut off the mark of our vast 1,000 domains. It seems that this is the only way. In that case, he can only enter the great world of Xiandi, which is open to all vast 1,000 domains. The 9 monstrous geniuses were all existences who were about to step into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. They were all summoned back by the controller from the Hongming domain through the mark of the vast 1,000 domains. Naturally, they were very clear about the Hongming domain. Therefore, they quickly thought of the same thing as the 5th Grand Elder. Well, I'm going to prepare. Tomorrow. I'm going to have a good time with Little White. Little idiots, goodbye. After Zhou Qinglong finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light, and disappeared directly from a tavern in the Immortal Sutra City. It seemed that he did not care that Li Mubai was an outsider at all. Damn pervert. Yin Xian scolded just after Zhou Qinglong left. Do you think this pervert can stop Li Mubai tomorrow? It depends on how you put it. The pervert's combat power is not as good as any of us, but it's impossible for any of us to win against him, unless it's a life and death battle at all costs. But if we fight him in the arena, I'm afraid we'll all lose. Well, this should be the reason why the controller put him last. However, I have a vague feeling that Li Mubai might have an even more shocking trump card. We've shown a new ability in each of the 8 matches. It's really a little scary. It's difficult to win, but it should be easy to stay undefeated. The damn pervert is an existence that can't be killed. Phew. In the palace, spring was still boundless, but a wisp of Chen Hao's mind was still thinking about the final battle tomorrow. He had already noticed the sissy Zhou Qinglong a long time ago. Chen Hao's powerful soul perception could clearly sense the boundless vitality surging within his body. What surprised him the most was that even the vitality released by the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree was not as pure as this. Every single cell in his body was like a life of its own, and the vitality it possessed was beyond imagination. Until now, Chen Hao had not thought of a way to deal with Zhou Qinglong. He was definitely an unkillable cockroach. Unlike cockroaches, he was not only unkillable, he was also very powerful. Zhou Qinglong, the monstrous genius of the top sect, Green Lotus School. 10,000 years ago he stepped into the complete Daoyuo Jingxian realm. He's an existence that the 8 monstrous geniuses are not willing to provoke. His combat power is the weakest among the 9, but his absolute power is not weaker than anyone else's. This is determined by his innate talent. I must enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. How do I break it? Chen Hao had fought with the 8 monstrous geniuses for 8 consecutive days. He had shocked everyone, But the 8 of them had also shocked Chen Hao. Especially today's Yin Xian. His Fire Lotus Immortal Seal was so powerful that it made people's hair stand on end. Chen Hao, who was in a crazed state, had a hard time winning against him. And Zhou Qinglong was arranged to be the last, so he was obviously the most important one. Chapter 1005. I'll only see after the real fight. After pondering for a long time, Chen Hao combed through all the divine ability laws he had mastered. However, he still couldn't think of a way to deal with the sissy Zhou Qinglong. There was nothing he could do. Wen Tanlan won the first 8 matches easily. Firstly, she was strong. Secondly, she was very lucky. The opponents randomly assigned to her were not on the same level as her at all. This was enough to prove that her immortal fate was very good. Moreover, every day that she appeared, Wen Tanlan gave people a new feeling. 1 change in a day, 9 changes in 9 days, just like the 9 transformations of the divine silkworm. She changed every day. It had to be said that the fusion of yin and yang was an excellent cultivation method. Being able to choose such a heaven-defying freak like Chen Hao was a blessing that every female cultivator had accumulated over 100 lifetimes. Of course, this also required Nguyen Tanlan to have a high level of comprehension. Otherwise, even if Chen Hao deliberately shared his supernatural power and cultivation comprehension during the fusion of soul and body, if her comprehension was poor, she would not be able to understand much. Similarly, Chen Hao did not seal himself and transform into a mortal like he did with the sisters. He comprehended together with them to improve their comprehension and potential from the root. Chen Hao had the mentality of compensating Wen Tanlan. He instilled all the knowledge into her. Although this was a little excessive, it was undoubtedly the way to let Nguyen Tanlan improve at the fastest speed and obtain the greatest benefits in the shortest time. Chen Hao did not know how the master of the immortal scripture Holy Land would deal with him in the end. He would be an outsider, but he knew that he would not be allowed to continue awakening and growing in the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds. Chen Hao still understood this basic common sense. However, he Li Mubai, Zhao Guiyu, and the others had very limited knowledge of the Hongming domain. Otherwise, with Chen Hao's shrewdness, he would naturally be able to predict his ending. Let's go, let's go. Quick, quick. Today's duel will definitely be more exciting. The earlier we get there, the earlier we can get a seat. Damn it, I don't have the qualifications to enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra, but to be able to enjoy such a peak battle, this trip was not in vain. That's right, let's go. Chi. Before dawn, the 510,000 cultivators who had been eliminated in the final competition went to the Immortal Scripture City's core martial arts practice field in advance. Today, there were only 2,000 cultivators left. The 1,000 who won would obtain the qualifications to enter the Immortal Sutra Holy Land. So far, only 4 people remained in the Hunyuan sect: Situ Qian, Zhang Chong, Wen Tanlan, and Li Mubai. Zhang Chong's strength was not enough, but he, who had obtained the Immortal Sutra magic treasure, was assigned to very weak opponents in every round. Even so, as the number of people decreased, the remaining ones would become stronger and stronger. However, everything seemed to have been calculated. The other weaker cultivators would be extremely lucky to encounter weak opponents and make it to the last few rounds. Then they would be used as puppets for people like Zhang Chong to win. This could only be said to be extremely lucky. Of course, this luck naturally could not be true great luck, but the luck condensed by the master of the Immortal Scripture City. Since ancient times, there had been no precedent of disciples who had obtained the Immortal Sutra magic treasure, not being able to enter the Immortal Scripture Holy Land. Li Mubai has encountered the 9 great evildoers in every round. Today he will definitely meet Zhou Qinglong. That's for sure. I really don't know what's going on. This is obviously deliberately arranged. Everyone can see that the 9 great evildoers were originally impossible to appear here. Now that they have returned and are all fighting with Li Mubai, it's obviously an arrangement aimed at him. Perhaps the master of the Immortal Scripture City deliberately let these evildoers exchange pointers. Probably. They are all destined to be awesome people in the future of our chaotic, boundless world. They have been deliberately cultivated by the master of the Immortal Scripture City. How enviable. Who do you think will win, Li Mubai or Zhou Qinglong? Of course it's Li Mubai. The 8 great evildoers have been defeated by Li Mubai. How can Zhou Qinglong be an exception? It is said that among the 9 great evildoers, Zhou Qinglong's combat power is the worst. That sissy, cough cough, it's a pity for his talent. You're wrong. Haven't you heard that the 8 great evildoers are most afraid of Zhou Qinglong? Zhou Qinglong's combat power is indeed the worst, but he is the most difficult to deal with. The 8 great evildoers do not dare to provoke him. In the arena battle, none of the 8 great evildoers can defeat him. Similarly, Li Mubai is also difficult. No way. You are relatively young. Zhou Qinglong achieved the title of a peak chaotic evildoer 10,000 years ago and stepped into the Hongmeng region. After disappearing for so long, you may not know the true power of Zhou Qinglong. He is an unkillable monster. Mubai, you must win. Today, your opponent should be one of the 9 great evildoers, Zhou Qinglong. I really don't know why we will meet each other. This is obviously a deliberate arrangement. Could it be because of the 30 Immortal Sutras? I asked Master, and he said that there may be something hidden. Your 2 masters are silent and did not explain, but they seem to know something. At dawn, Nguyen Tanlan and Chen Hao flew over hand in hand. As they flew, they communicated telepathically. Chen Hao naturally could not answer her. Nguyen Tanlan did not expect, or rather, did not want Chen Hao to answer her. If he answered, it meant that he was awake. What did being awake mean? Nguyen Tanlan would still think about that feeling some time ago. Now she did not dare to think about it. She did not want to think about it. Everyone was selfish. If it was losing, she would rather Li Mubai never wake up. She would rather he be with her forever. A bright green light suddenly caught up with Chen Hao and Nguyen Tanlan from behind. All right, little Lanlan, you're so lucky. I'm so envious. Little Bai Bai is so handsome and strong. You should be happy. Don't mind me later. I'll have a good time with little Bai Bai. I've waited for 8 days. I'm so looking forward to it. Oh, so handsome. Nguyen Tanlan looked at this pervert who came without warning and felt uncomfortable. Without saying anything, she held Chen Hao's hand and suddenly sped up. At the same time, she set up a seal around the 2 of them. Annoying. I will not steal your man. So petty humph. Zhou Qinglong stroked her with his orchid fingers and said coquettishly. However, when Nguyen Tanlan and Chen Hao were far away, his eyes flashed with an undetectable light. He slowly stretched out his soft, feminine hand. A strand of hair the length of a thumb appeared in his palm. I am very curious about how the grandpa controller will treat Little White. I can only do something to you, hee. This was a strand of Nguyen Tanlan's hair. As long as he could sense the life energy in this strand of hair, he could lock onto Nguyen Tanlan. No matter where she was, she could not escape his surveillance. Yin Xian, Xiang Tiange, and the other 8 masters were most afraid of Zhou Qinglong pestering them. It was also because of Zhou Qinglong's perverted ability. Chapter 1006. Ouch! Zhou Qinglong, who was looking at a section of Nguyen Tanlan's hair proudly, suddenly widened his eyes and screamed. A section of Nguyen Tanlan's hair suddenly burst into flames that contained the mysteries of the fiery lotus celestial seal. And it spontaneously burned into ashes. Little White. It must be Little White's doing. It scared me to death. How did he find out? Did he find out? He's so powerful. Zhou Qinglong did not dare to directly take the hair that contained the aura of life from Chen Hao's body. Instead, he chose Nguyen Tanlan because the aura around Chen Hao's body, especially his physical body, made him feel that even a strand of hair contained a terrifying amount of blood energy and energy. If he were to steal a section of hair, he would not be able to fool everyone. With his cultivation level, it would be very easy for him to tamper with Nguyen Tanlan's body. However, he did not expect that it would be destroyed. Little White is immersed in the realm of madness. How could he find out? Could it be? Ouch, he's Earth Daddy. Zhou Qinglong's eyes shone with shock. He thought of a possibility, and his orchid fingers trembled a little. Chi. Beams of immortal light gushed out from the center of the huge martial arts arena. 1,000 arenas that were several times larger than the previous ones slowly rose up. The final round of the competition was about to begin. Countless cultivators had already filled the martial arts arena, waiting for the arrival of today's exciting battle. Out of 512,000 people, only 2,000 had qualified for the 9th round of the competition. 510,000 people had become spectators. At the spectator stand for the big shots of the cultivation world, they opened their eyes in anticipation and looked in the direction of Chen Hao and the sissy Zhou Qinglong. Although many people did not know the reason, they knew that Li Mubai would definitely face the last of the 9 great evildoers, Zhou Qinglong. There was no doubt that, apart from the disciples who were still qualified to participate in the competition, the most important thing today was the battle between Li Mubai and Zhou Qinglong. Today's final battle, the winner will be qualified to enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. Begin. Buzz. Chi 2,000 people, 2,000 tokens automatically left the control of the crowd and flew back to their respective arenas. Chen Hao still chased the tokens directly. Little, I'm so excited. The sissy Zhou Qinglong seemed to be even more excited. When his voice that gave people goosebumps rang out, his entire body turned into a dark green crystal. Just like Chen Hao, he chased after the token and ascended the arena. Zhou Qinglong, Li Mubai, the time limit for your battle is at sunset, when the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra opens. If the winner is not decided by then all of you will be eliminated. For the missing person, the old man will directly choose one of the people present according to the immortal fate. Crash! What everyone did not expect was that the phantom of the Immortal Sutra city controller would say such words at this time. Obviously, he was very clear about Zhou Qinglong's ability and concluded that it would be difficult to determine the winner of this battle in a short period of time. That was why he said such words. This also caused the crowd to suddenly burst into a heated discussion. Especially those who understood Zhou Qinglong's situation. They felt that the Immortal Sutra city controller, from the beginning until now, was completely set up obstacles for the newly risen super monster Li Mubai. He did not want to let him enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra at all. However, there were not many who could figure out why, especially these contestants. Hey, Grandpa Controller, you also look down on me. I will definitely be able to settle Little White before nightfall. Zhou Qinglong stretched out his orchid fingers and twisted his. But as he looked at the figure in the void and said, it had to be said that in this guy's eyes, there was no fear at all. Even if it was the controller of the Immortal Sutra city, his true colors could be done freely. Chen Hao, whose eyes were empty, naturally did not respond. But in his heart, it was not the case at all. Begin. The controller did not talk nonsense with Zhou Qinglong and directly ordered. Boom, 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 boom. At this moment, a terrifying energy roar suddenly erupted from the 1,000-square arena. In the final battle, the winner would enter, and the loser would leave the Immortal Sutra city. Every cultivator no longer dared to hold back, and took out the heroic spirit of a life-and-death battle, violently attacking. Nguyen Tan Lan, who had something in her heart, directly activated the Immortal Sutra magic treasure after sensing the most powerful aura since the start of the competition. This time, she displayed the true strength that she had crazily improved during this period of time. She wanted to end this battle quickly. She was very clear that if Li Mubai won this battle, she could still enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra with him, and obtain even greater improvement. She could also be with him for 1,000 years. Yes, 1,000 years. The sacred land of the Immortal Sutra was only 10 years, but the space-time laws inside were 100 times that of the outside world. 10 years was 1,000 years. But if Li Mubai failed, regardless of whether he woke up or not, last night might have been the last time she and Li Mubai would be reunited. A kind of feeling that could not be cut, that was still in chaos, that had never appeared in the heart of Nguyen Tan Lan, who pursued the peak of martial arts and prioritized her own cultivation interests, filled Nguyen Tan Lan's heart. Boom. Roar. Little White, be gentle, I'll be shy. Chi. In the arena where Chen Hao and Zhou Qinglong were, the battle also began at this moment. Until now, he had not thought of a way to deal with Zhou Qinglong, causing Chen Hao to enter the state of madness without any hesitation. He directly raised his strength to the most violent and ferocious state, and with a thrust of his spear, he used the Great Five Elements technique on the Overlord spear. At this time, Zhou Qinglong's aura did not change in the slightest, nor did it violently soar. Seeing Chen Hao's tyrannical spear attack, this fellow actually continued to ridicule him with his disgusting voice. At the same time, with a twist of his slender waist and a stretch of his orchid fingers, a bewitching flower emitting a dark green crystal light bloomed between his orchid fingers. At this moment, the world suddenly darkened. All the practitioners who were paying attention to this battle were shocked to feel that there was only that bewitching green flower left between heaven and earth. Beautiful, a beauty that could cause the downfall of a city, a beauty that could overturn heaven and earth, and disturb yin and yang. No one could describe how beautiful this flower was. It seemed to contain all the mysteries and true meanings of life, making people feel as if they were in a boundless spring, as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. It was also as if they had seen the most mysterious source of life between heaven and earth, and their soul consciousness was deeply intoxicated in it. Buzz. Chen Hao's eyes, which were as red as blood, actually glowed with a dark green light when he saw the bewitching dark green flowers. There was a buzzing sound in his mind, which caused the spear he violently thrust out to tremble slightly. Before he realized it, his divine thoughts had separated from the spear light, and it was beyond his control. Chapter 1007. Rumble. Rumble. The enchanting green flower gently met with the domineering spear radiance. The flower withered on its own as if it did not contain any energy. However, Chen Hao's violent spear directly exploded and destroyed the entire space. The terrifying explosion and raging energy made the immortal light guarding the arena tremble violently. There was a huge fluctuation on the ground of the entire arena. However, Zhou Qinglong twisted his slender waist and laughed coquettishly. He stroked the flower with his fingers and appeared to be at ease. He was not attacked by any energy. Amazing. Fuck, what a freak. He's so strong. When the enchanting green flower was submerged in Chen Hao's terrifying spear radiance, the onlookers also came to their senses and looked at this shocking scene in horror. At this moment, many of the eliminated cultivators finally understood how terrifying Zhou Qinglong, the monstrous genius whose name had shaken the entire chaotic colossal world 10,000 years ago, was. The flower with his fingers did not seem to have used any powerful energy, but it dissolved Li Mubai's terrifying spear radiance into nothingness. This feeling was really frightening. To be exact, Li Mubai's violent attack was completely under the confusion of the enchanting green flower. He lost control of his divine thoughts and self-detonated. Roar. Rumble. Chen Hao, whose eyes were red again, took a step forward and directly became one with his spear. In a flash, he disappeared from everyone's sight. The great teleportation technique. Qi. After a moment of sparks, Chen Hao appeared again, and was already in front of Zhou Qinglong. He stabbed his spear directly. Whether it was the speed, the energy contained, or the divine sense, it was so powerful that it made people's hair stand on end. Even the onlookers such as Xiang Tiange and Yin Xian gasped. They could clearly sense that Li Mubai had launched his fiercest, strongest, and most violent attack at the beginning of the battle, and he had combined many terrifying skills with it. However, although they were surprised, they who were familiar with Zhou Qinglong didn't do anything to Zhou Qinglong because of the great teleportation technique. However, the other cultivators all cried out in shock at this moment. Puff. Rumble. Zhou Qinglong's body, which was sticking out his butt, tilting his head, and extending his fingers like an orchid. He even had a charming smile on his face. However, Chen Hao's spear pierced through his body and turned it into a rain of light that filled the sky. It was as if he had been too careless and failed to react in time, causing his physical body to be destroyed. Little White, you're so fierce, you're such a good man. I like you so much. However, just as everyone was in a daze, Zhou Qinglong's voice came from another direction. It was still a voice that was extremely disgusting, and the words he spoke caused many men to have goosebumps all over their bodies. But at this time, they were even more shocked. Green. How can the destruction of a physical body be green? So it's an illusion. Wrong. That's not an illusion. It's a real body that has been destroyed. However, it's a body formed by a strand of Zhou Qinglong's hair, a strand of nose hair, or some other hair. Someone revealed the truth. Little White, come on, fuck me harder. Use all your strength. Hee. A handsome brother like you makes me feel so good. Come on, I want more. Blurg. Puff. The shocked cultivators originally looked at Zhou Qinglong with fear and admiration from the depths of their hearts. However, Zhou Qinglong's butt was facing Chen Hao, and his small mouth was covered. His face was full of shyness and lewd words, causing countless cultivators to feel their stomachs churn. Fuck this fucking pervert, he's so disgusting. But this is really fucking satisfying. Li Mubai is really strong. This fucking pervert probably doesn't have any confidence in defeating him before sunset. That's right. If he had 30% confidence, this fucking pervert wouldn't be stalling like this and not even attacking. The 8 monsters secretly conversed. To put it bluntly, Zhou Qinglong's terrifying ability was not offensive at all. It was completely using his innate ability to stall for time with Chen Hao. He would not lose much energy even if he persisted until sunset. At most, he would lose a few dozen or 100 strands of hair that would grow back after some time. Fuck. No one knew that Chen Hao, who was in the demonic realm, was cursing in his heart. There's actually such a perverted guy. Is this his innate ability? Chen Hao could be said to have used his strongest attack after several consecutive attacks. If it had been anyone else among the 8 monsters, they would have been defeated by now. However, he had not even touched Zhou Qinglong's body. It's even purer than the vitality emitted by the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree. The mystery must be in his physical body. Come on, Little White, come and fuck me. Fuck, I don't believe it. Today, I'll fuck you to death. Chen Hao, who had temporarily stopped attacking, was truly disgusted when he saw Zhou Qinglong's despicable appearance with his buttocks sticking out at him again. Chen Hao could feel that this guy was not really a pervert. He just wanted to use this posture to disgust others. Chen Hao pushed the great teleportation technique to the extreme this time, but the power around him was different from the previous attacks that were concentrated in a single line. Instead, he drew a sphere with a diameter of 10,000 miles in an instant and stabbed out with his spear. Chen Hao's teleportation speed became faster and faster. Before the last afterimage disappeared, a new afterimage had already appeared. Gradually, thousands of afterimages formed a sphere of Chen Hao in the space of 10,000 miles in diameter. Endless spear flares shot densely at Zhou Qinglong, who was either the real body or the hairy clone. At this moment, everyone gasped in shock. Ouch! Ouch! Even the sissy's voice was no longer as calm as before. He seemed to be a little panicked as he kept calling out. Other than the words "Io," he was unable to say anything else that was coherent. Bang bang bang. Passing through the dense illusory figures, everyone's eyes widened, and a strange look appeared on their faces. Many people quivered and could not help but suck in their anus, afraid that Li Mubai's spear flares would stab them. What kind of scene was that? Zhou Qinglong, who was originally sticking out his buttocks and facing Chen Hao, had now become the same as before. He kept screaming ouch, and then Chen Hao's spear flares kept stabbing into his buttocks. The city burst into green light. Mubai, you must win. You must win. Nguyen Tan Lan, who ended the battle quickly, had separated the crowd and came to the front of the ring. She stared at the thousands of shadows of Chen Hao and said over and over again in her heart, Zhou Qinglong was too abnormal. She knew that Li Mubai's crazy consumption could not last long, but she did not know how to make it effective. Chapter 1008. Too strong. A true monster, the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. Who can match him? Countless people looked at Chen Hao, who was in a crazed state, and their hearts were filled with shock. Until today, the strength that Chen Hao displayed was his most terrifying strength. The previous 8 matches paled in comparison to this, and the difference was not just by a little. The 8 monsters were certain that if they were to face Li Mubai's violent and reckless attacks, they would be riddled with holes in an instant. It's a pity. Zhou Qinglong is an unkillable monster. He won't be able to last long. That's right. In the end, there's no need to wait until sunset. Zhou Qinglong only needs to counterattack when his energy is exhausted and he'll win. That's why Zhou Qinglong is still more abnormal. Zhou Qinglong is a little too disgusting, but he's really abnormal. I want to stab him in the anus. It's a pity that Li Mubai didn't even stab his real body. A draw means a loss. Is there really no other way? Even though Chen Hao's energy was terrifyingly boundless, in a short 2 minutes, Chen Hao could clearly feel his energy rapidly depleting. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before he ran out of energy. Sunset. There's still 10 hours left. Why should I be in such a hurry? It's only useful if I think of a way to break it. Roar. Thinking of this, Chen Hao suddenly let out a roar that resounded through the heavens and earth. His rapidly flashing figure suddenly stopped, and he opened his mouth. At this moment, the pores all over his body seemed to become tiny vortexes, madly devouring the energy that was wreaking havoc between heaven and earth because of him. Chi 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 chi. At this moment, Chen Hao's body once again began to expand at a terrifying speed. Devouring energy would make one's body bigger. Even the energy released by Chen Hao was the same. Once one's own energy came into contact with heaven and earth, there would be a mysterious change. If one wanted to devour it back, the only way was to refine it again. If that wasn't the case, it would be too easy for cultivators to recover during battle. Chen Hao's body naturally wouldn't have swelled up because he couldn't refine it for the time being. "Io, little white, continue, it's so good, so good, so good. How can you stop? Come on, come on." Just as all the spear lights disappeared, Zhou Qinglong's disgusting voice rang out once again. "Huh? Li Mubai is starting to devour energy to recover. Is this still the demonic realm?" Someone in the crowd exclaimed. It was reasonable to say that the berserk demon realm was dominated by the subconscious. Combat power, perception, reaction, and other abilities could be increased by several times. The only thing that could not be used was tactics. But now, Chen Hao actually began to recover even though he clearly hadn't used up all his energy. This was more or less beyond everyone's expectations. He has immersed himself in the demonic realm. Including the effects of the space-time laws, it has been hundreds of years, close to 1,000 years. Even if it's his subconscious, I'm afraid that he has already analyzed it. Or perhaps, it's an instinctive reaction to the consumption of energy that is causing him to begin to recover. But no matter what, this Li Mubai is simply too powerful. Chi 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 chi. Chen Hao allowed his body to expand crazily, devouring the berserk energy between heaven and earth. A small part of his mind was locked onto the coquettish Zhou Qinglong, preventing him from suddenly counterattacking. After all, Zhou Qinglong's absolute strength was definitely not weak. If he counterattacked, he would have to deal with it with all his strength. And the majority of his mind was integrated into the energy, carefully sensing and searching. He wanted to capture Zhou Qinglong's energy. Perhaps he could find a breakthrough. But what surprised Chen Hao was that within the berserk energy, there wasn't a trace of Zhou Qinglong's aura, let alone finding it to comprehend. What kind of monster is this? Chen Hao was truly shocked. According to his thoughts, even if he shattered Zhou Qinglong's fake body, there should be more or less some traces left, but there wasn't even a trace. It was as if what he shattered was air, and it was all his own performance. "Little white, this is very boring. You have to think carefully. At sunset, if you don't defeat him, you won't have the chance to enter the immortal scripture Holy Land. It's the immortal scripture Holy Land, don't you want to? I used to like it very much. But now I don't care. A draw doesn't affect me much. Come on, come on, come on. I promise I won't fight back." Then you should recover. Hurry, recover with all your strength. I'm waiting for you." Seeing that Li Mubai didn't have any reaction, Zhou Qinglong hummed and said. After saying that, he actually held his chin and looked at Chen Hao affectionately, as if he was waiting patiently. Chen Hao was slightly taken aback. Does this guy really have no intention of making a move? If that's the case, I can give it a try. Hiss, an imperceptible aura suddenly emitted from between Chen Hao's eyebrows. In the violent fluctuations of the energy of heaven and earth, even a Tao-severing perfected immortal would not be able to detect it if he did not consciously search for it. I'd like to see what kind of mysteries your physical body contains. Chen Hao thought to himself. He could feel that except for the moment when he shattered the other party's fake body, at all other times, whether it was the soul origin or the physical body's aura, they were completely one. In other words, the Zhou Qinglong he saw now was Zhou Qinglong. There was no mistake. Chen Hao's powerful soul perception was certain of this. However, Chen Hao still didn't understand how he changed his fake body the moment he shattered it, and how his real body directly appeared in another place. But now, Chen Hao's tiny strand of divine thought was like silk being peeled out of a cocoon. It continuously integrated into heaven and earth bit by bit, extending in all directions toward Zhou Qinglong, interweaving into a net until there was no gap left. Chen Hao believed that even if a cell passed by, he would be able to capture it. It was also at this moment that Chen Hao moved. His huge body suddenly stopped devouring energy and disappeared into thin air, leaving no trace of his aura behind. Dandinga. This is Dandinga. It's really him. Someone in the crowd suddenly exclaimed. When Chen Hao had obtained the 30th magic treasure, he had used this unique skill to disappear into thin air without a trace of fluctuation before leaving. Although everyone was sure that it was Li Mubai before, it was all speculation after all, and there was no proof. But now, Li Mubai had exposed the unique skill that he had used at that time, causing many people to exclaim in surprise. Ouch! At this moment, Zhou Qinglong suddenly exclaimed. His expression changed, and his body bloomed with a bright green light. There are only 9 votes today. I beg for monthly votes with tears streaming down my face. Chapter 1009. Boom. It was also at this moment that Chen Hao strangely appeared beside Zhou Qinglong. The moment his green energy burst out, Chen Hao also jumped out from his hidden state of merging with all things in the world. His violent finger-guessing fist turned into a claw and clawed out. The massive palm contained a terrifying amount of soul force, true essence, and essence energy. Resplendent runes covered the palm, as if they wanted to seal the world. Ouch bang! Zhou Qinglong screamed, but before he could finish his signature ouch, he was crushed in Chen Hao's huge palm. Hey, little white, you're so scary. What? This time, Chen Hao was completely shocked. Even with the inescapable net's divine sense blockade, he still couldn't sense any aura of Zhou Qinglong. How was this possible? Impossible. Could it be that he can travel through time and space in an instant? Travel through time and space. Other than this explanation, Chen Hao really couldn't think of how Zhou Qinglong could pass through his divine sense net silently. But if it was time and space travel, how could there be no fluctuation of time and space aura before the travel? For the time being, Chen Hao, who had no other way, knew that he couldn't go on like this. With a shake of his body, he suddenly disappeared silently again. This time, although he couldn't find a breakthrough, the look of shock that flashed across Zhou Qinglong's face let Chen Hao know that his attack was still effective. Then he would use a faster and more ruthless attack, not giving him any time to breathe. Perhaps only in this way could he force his opponent to reveal a flaw. Bang. Bang. Boom. Next, everyone's nerves were like a taut string. They watched Chen Hao flicker again and again, and Zhou Qinglong collapse again and again, but reappear again and again. Minutes and seconds passed. Chen Hao couldn't remember how many times he had attacked, but at least 1,000 times. When Chen Hao killed Zhou Qinglong again, and Zhou Qinglong appeared in the distance again, Zhou Qinglong suddenly stroked his orchid fingers again, and the same enchanting green flower was born from his fingertips again. At this moment, most of the onlookers couldn't help but be attracted by this enchanting green flower again. Humph, you can do it once, but you want to do it again? Buzz. The moment the green flower appeared, Chen Hao's eyebrows suddenly bloomed with a jade-like light. His strong spiritual altar was untainted by dust, and all kinds of wills were raised to the peak level by Chen Hao in an instant. What was more shocking was that Chen Hao's blood-red empty eyes, which contained endless pain, emitted a charming 7-colored light at this moment. The peak of the 10th level of the Red Dust Heart Sutra. This time, Chen Hao didn't show any signs of being in a trance, nor was he attracted by the enchanting green flower. Under the attack of the great teleportation technique, he once again blasted Zhou Qinglong to death. At the same time, the green flower exploded, and rays of green light that seemed to contain endless vitality burst out in all directions. Ouch! Ah! At this moment, what shocked everyone, and what made Chen Hao's eyes suddenly become even more resplendent, was that Zhou Qinglong, who had appeared once again, seemed to be formed from the green light that had burst out from the green flower. The moment he appeared, he was in the exact same direction as the green light. After reappearing, he was very close to Chen Hao for the first time. So it's this flower? Because the distance was too close, many of the green light that burst out from the green flower blasted onto Chen Hao's body. There was no lethality, and it was just pure light. Chen Hao didn't care at all, but at this moment, what surprised him was that in the macro world of his mind, the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree suddenly attacked the barrier of his macro world violently, as if it wanted to connect the 9 heavens and 10 earths and extend out from Chen Hao's mind. Could it be that it wants to absorb? After this thought flashed through Chen Hao's mind, he didn't think much and opened a link between the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree and the outside world. At this moment, green tentacles suddenly stretched out from between his eyebrows. The moment they appeared, they grew in the wind and swallowed the green light that burst out from the green flower with a sizzling sound. However, they didn't show any signs of stopping. Chen Hao didn't even need to control them. The green tentacles were like swimming dragons, rushing toward Zhou Qinglong at lightning speed. Ah! At this moment, Zhou Qinglong's sissy voice completely disappeared, and he burst out with a roar of horror. Boom! Finally, Zhou Qinglong raised his strength to the peak for the first time. With a wave of his hand, he blasted the green tentacles with a power that could collapse mountains and fill seas, breaking space and shattering stars. Crack! Crack! The tentacles broke and shattered, and Zhou Qinglong moved away from Chen Hao like a bolt of lightning. He seemed to be extremely wary of the green tentacles, and he continuously laid down countless layers of stellar energy around himself. Roar! As the newly grown tentacles madly rushed toward Zhou Qinglong again, Chen Hao also raised his strength to the peak and charged at Zhou Qinglong. Hiss! But at this moment, a dazzling immortal light suddenly poured down from the void. Zhou Qinglong has lost. Congratulations, Li Mubai. You have earned the right to enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. What? The voice of the master of the Immortal Sutra city in the void made most cultivators look surprised and puzzled. The result had not been decided yet, so how could Li Mubai have won? You can actually. Zhou Qinglong's eyes were wide open, and he finally looked like a man. He looked at Chen Hao with a shocked expression, but he didn't say anything else. The other 8 monstrous geniuses were also shocked. Hiss! Hiss! Green tentacles extended from Chen Hao's glabella, but they could not get any closer under the master's immortal light. However, they were still struggling desperately, as if they wanted to break through the seal and get closer to Zhou Qinglong. At the same time, countless tentacles extended in all directions, devouring all the energy in the arena. The master's phantom did not stop the tentacles from devouring other parts of Chen Hao's body apart from protecting Zhou Qinglong. Chen Hao seemed to have stopped attacking after being blocked by the immortal light, but he was very excited. That was because his mind had already merged with the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, so he could clearly sense what the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree was doing. He also understood why Zhou Qinglong could not die. The bewitching flower. The green light emitted by the bewitching flower was the life substitute that Zhou Qinglong had scattered all over the arena. Zhou Qinglong's primordial spirit was perfectly compatible with every hidden ball of light. In other words, Zhou Qinglong did not have a physical body at all. Instead, he was an immortal tree that contained a higher level of vitality than the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree. However, the immortal tree was still very weak and could not resist the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree's devouring of the same source of energy. As long as the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree devoured this energy, it could evolve. Chapter 1010. Mubai. Qi. Nguyen Tanlan rushed excitedly to Chen Hao's side. When the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree vanished from between Chen Hao's brows, and the barrier of immortal light opened, She'd been in so much despair that she'd lost all hope. She hadn't expected the tables to turn. Her joy was indescribable. "All right, the old man will send you back. Remember, even if you can't be friends with Li Mubai, you can't be enemies with him. Don't provoke him if you run into him." The immortal scripture city master transmitted his voice to the 9 monsters. "Grandpa Master, what is he? Why can he sense me and devour me?" The Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree. It's grown to a terrifying level. Its life origin energy can grow to the same level as your physical life origin, but that's only its subsidiary ability. Tao manifestation. Its greatest strength is the condensation of endless Tao laws. As long as its cultivator's potential reaches that level, there's no limit to its growth. Impressive, truly impressive. The Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree is rooted in the soul origin brand and is bound to the endless cycle of reincarnation. Even the old man isn't confident he can achieve such a feat all right. Remember the old man's words. Don't be enemies with it. Just let him leave on his own. "Master, do you mean to send him to the Hongmeng domain?" "Of course. Haven't you guessed it already? Go." Chi 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 chi. 9 beams of immortal light suddenly enveloped the 9 monsters. Soon after, a space-time tunnel with a terrifying aura opened, and the 9 of them disappeared into it. The 1,000 disciples who have qualified to enter the immortal scripture city remain. The others, please leave with your sect masters, grand elders, and other mighty figures. The immortal scripture city will close in 15 minutes. Chi. In the Hunyuan sect, the 5th grand elder, Tian Wanxiang, Gao Xiangqing, and the others quickly came to the side of their respective disciples. The 5th grand elder, Tian Wanxiang, and Gao Xiangqing naturally came together because of Chen Hao and Wen Tanlan. Disciple. 5th grand elder Tian Wanxiang looked at Chen Hao with a complicated expression and shouted at the same time. "I originally thought that you would be able to inherit my legacy, but I didn't expect that I no longer have anything worth passing on to you. It's over before it even started. At least we're fated to be master and disciple. Regardless of whether you like it or not, I'll leave it behind for you. This is my life's comprehension. Perhaps it'll still be of some use to you now." The 5th grand elder stared at Chen Hao's empty eyes as he spoke with a hint of sadness and desolation. After he finished speaking, a light flashed between his eyebrows, and a jade slip emitting a sparkling purple light appeared in his hand. The 5th grand elder reached out and took Chen Hao's hand, placing it in Chen Hao's hand. Chi. At this moment, 2 bright lights flashed between Chen Hao's eyebrows. One light took the jade slip that clearly contained the Tao marks that the 5th grand elder had learned and comprehended in his life into his mind. The other light wrapped around 2 magic treasures that bloomed with the might of the immortal scripture, and slowly floated in front of the 5th grand elder, Tian Wanxiang. Chen Hao really wanted to say something to the 2 of them, but in the end he held back. He just took out the immortal scripture magic treasures and presented them to the 2 of them. And then there was no more reaction. Immortal scripture magic treasures. Gao Xiangqing said excitedly. "Master doesn't need this. Keep it for yourself." The slightly surprised 5th grand elder said without thinking. "I don't need it either." Tian Wanxiang was originally holding it in his hand, but at this moment he hurriedly said. The 2 of them were very moved, especially the 5th grand elder. He hadn't recognized Li Mubai as his disciple for long, but in his subconscious state, Li Mubai actually took out the immortal scripture magic treasures to show his filial piety to them. One could imagine their position in Li Mubai's heart. But no matter how the 2 of them tried to stuff it into Li Mubai's hands, Li Mubai didn't put it away. Wen Tanlan stared blankly, ripples in her heart. Was this his subconscious mind? Or was there a trace of consciousness? Qinglan, Li Mubai, maybe there's a problem. But when there's an opportunity, we have to grasp it. He should be able to go in and comprehend the immortal scripture sacred land. Let's go with him. We'll take it one step at a time. Master, what's going on with Mubai? Although I felt strange at first, I didn't think too much about it. Later, the 9 great geniuses stopped him in succession, which was too puzzling. 5th grand elder and Elder Tian didn't explain and looked worried. Later, many powerful figures speculated that Li Mubai is probably a cultivator from another greater thousand world, who came from the endless reincarnation. If nothing goes wrong, the controller will send him out of the chaotic greater thousand world, and strip him of the imprint of the chaotic greater thousand world. Sigh. Qinglan, you've been smart since childhood to choose him, and now, I don't know if it's good or bad, but since you've already reached this step, you don't have to worry about anything, and do your best to improve yourself. He has all kinds of legendary unique skills. Even if he doesn't teach you, you can still comprehend a lot from the fusion of yin and yang. The immortal scripture sacred land, 1,000 years of time, don't waste it. Nguyen Tanlan's eyes widened as she listened to Gao Xiangqing's words, and her face became very pale in an instant. When she heard her master say that Li Mubai would be sent out of the chaotic greater thousand world, her mind became blank. Even if she transmitted her voice, she didn't hear the rest of Gao Xiangqing's words. Time's up. Please leave immediately. The controller's shadow issued an ultimatum. The fifth great elder and Tian Wanxiang held the immortal scripture magic treasure that Chen Hao forcibly gave to them. They took a deep look at it, and then turned into two streamers. Gao Xiangqing didn't know whether to be happy or disappointed. He looked at Nguyen Tanlan, who seemed to have lost her soul, with mixed feelings. After sending out a wisp of Dao sound to wake her up, he shook his head and left. 1,000 years, don't I still have 1,000 years? Nguyen Tanlan suddenly woke up from her master's Dao sound, which was directly transmitted into the depths of her soul. What happened to me just now? How can this be? I'm pursuing the peak of martial arts. The great Dao is ruthless. The great Dao is ruthless. Nguyen Tanlan didn't know that at this moment, Chen Hao's empty eyes were sizing her up. When Chen Hao saw the crystal light and sharpness in her eyes, he felt a little conflicted because of Nguyen Tanlan's soulless look, but he immediately relaxed. Similarly, Chen Hao also didn't know that Nguyen Tanlan woke up so quickly, because of some kind of mysterious Dao sound that his master deliberately added. The great Dao is merciless. A piece of paper, which was not pierced through, caused countless years of waiting and disappointment, of course, that belonged to Nguyen Tanlan. Chen Hao might occasionally think of his experience in the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds, but he didn't have any regrets. At least, that was what he thought. Everyone had their own pursuits, and it was enough to give her what she wanted most. It was a wrong combination. He had no regrets, and he didn't let his conscience down. Chapter 10-11. Qinglan. Just as Nguyen Tanlan gently held Chen Hao's hand, and was about to leave the arena, a figure suddenly appeared beside them and stared at Nguyen Tanlan. What's the matter, senior brother Situ? Nguyen Tanlan frowned slightly. You should have received the news, right? Situ Qian looked directly at Nguyen Tanlan and said, he's just an outsider. You and him won't be together. In the past? Sorry. I still have something to do. Qi. Although Nguyen Tanlan still maintained the last bit of etiquette, her gaze towards Situ Qian was already full of disdain, and she directly left. This was the top genius of the Hunyuan sect? In the past, he looked down on the Hunyuan sect, and no matter what arrogant things he did, it was only right in everyone's eyes. He was the #1 genius, and he was not at the same level as everyone else. But now, when Nguyen Tanlan rose to a certain level, she realized that this person's temperament was worse than an ordinary disciple's. Especially in such an occasion, he actually dared to criticize Li Mubai and express goodwill towards her. If this wasn't an idiot, then what was? Brother Huang, have you heard? Li Mubai might be an outsider from the endless cycle of reincarnation to our chaotic colossal world. A total of 60 to 70 people from the Chaos Academy participated, and 43 of them were actually qualified to enter the sacred ground of the Immortal Sutra. At this time, they all gathered around the genius Huang Tianhua. It's not a possibility, it's a certainty. Outsider. Haha. This is a chance for me. Brother Huang, what do you mean? Situ Qian is really unbearable. How can he be worthy of Nguyen Tanlan? You're asking for humiliation. Brother Huang, Nguyen Tanlan has already lost her primordialine body. So what? It was just the fusion of yin and yang, a kind of cultivation method. In my eyes, it's nothing. Oh, by the way, pass on my message to that idiot Situ Qian. If he dares to do anything to Nguyen Tan Lan, don't blame me, Huang Tianhua, for being impolite. After saying that, Huang Tianhua turned into a stream of light and flew away. The disciples of the Primal Chaos Academy looked at each other in dismay. In the chaotic boundless world, men were possessive. As long as they had some status, they would not wear shoes that had been worn by others, especially when the shoes were relatively famous. For a man, that was a very shameful thing. Monstrous geniuses are monstrous geniuses. For the sake of cultivation, they don't care about reputation at all. Someone said softly, "What do you mean?" Nguyen Tan Lan alone has 3 Dharma treasures. Perhaps Brother Huang doesn't care about them, but Li Mubai displayed powerful magical powers in the battle with the 9 monstrous geniuses. How many cultivators dream of having such powerful magical powers? Even if Li Mubai didn't impart them to Nguyen Tan Lan, they could still comprehend many of the Tao laws contained in the fusion of yin and yang. Whoever obtains Nguyen Tan Lan will obtain cultivation insights from another boundless world. I also want to. Unfortunately, Brother Huang has already warned us. Warning? That's true. At this moment, everyone finally understood why Huang Tianhua had clearly expressed his interest in Nguyen Tan Lan in front of all of them. At the same time, he had asked them to pass on his warning to Situ Qian. That was undoubtedly meant for them to hear as well. As Nguyen Tan Lan and Chen Hao flew towards the palace, a beam of immortal light suddenly descended from the sky and enveloped the 2 of them. Chen Hao didn't react at all. It was as if he already knew that this immortal light was coming, or that he knew that he couldn't resist it. Nguyen Tan Lan was shocked. No need to panic. In the immortal scripture city, apart from the ruler of the old man, no one dares to act recklessly. Ruler Nguyen Tan Lan, Li Mubai is an outsider from the endless cycle of reincarnation. You can no longer be with him in the sacred land of the immortal scripture. Moreover, the old man will strip away any aura related to him from your body, but he won't strip away your memories of being with him. One more thing, after stepping out of the sacred land of the immortal scripture, you can't enter the Hongming region on your own before the old man comes looking for you. Ruler. Why? Tianji, Mubai. When the ruler only said the 2 words Tianji, Li Mubai, who was also surrounded by immortal light, suddenly turned into a stream of light and broke through the sky. Nguyen Tan Lan exclaimed and screamed. Tears instantly streamed down her face as she frantically tried to break free from the shackles of the immortal light. However, everything she did was in vain. Chen Hao couldn't see or hear. Tianji. How can there be so many Tianji that can be predicted? The old man just left a seed of hope. Although it seems that there's no need at all and it's not very possible, we can't let our guard down. The ruler sensed Nguyen Tan Lan's state and thought to himself, I didn't expect that I was worrying too much. Since that's the case, put it away. Nature is the best. No one knew that in the immortal light that surrounded Nguyen Tan Lan, a dense and undetectable light was suddenly drawn out. If this light entered Nguyen Tan Lan's soul, then her emotional world would become an eternal and indelible eternity. She would no longer be able to accommodate any man other than Chen Hao in her heart. The ruler naturally had his reasons for doing so. The potential that Chen Hao had shown was really too terrifying. It was so terrifying that the ruler still had lingering fears. Such a person, as long as there was a slight possibility that he could find the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds in the future, he could bring about a huge disaster. Therefore, he wanted to keep Nguyen Tan Lan, and even anyone that Li Mubai had ever had feelings for in this life. It seemed useless now, but it might play a decisive role in the future. The great Tao was heartless. Was it really heartless? At his level, he knew better than anyone else. However, what the ruler did not expect was that when he was about to let the light enter Nguyen Tan Lan's soul, he found that he did not need to do anything extra. Nguyen Tan Lan was far more real than the ruthless great Tao that she appeared to be on the surface. It was just that she had suppressed it in her heart. Now that Chen Hao was suddenly taken away, her true feelings directly erupted. Even her master's ruthless great Tao sound just now broke through. The ruler also saw this, so he put away the immortal light that was opposite to Nguyen Tan Lan's master's, but was hundreds and thousands of times more powerful. Senior. In the city lord's palace in Immortal Scripture City, Chen Hao, who was wrapped in immortal light, was brought here. When he saw an old man sitting cross-legged on one side of a seemingly ordinary tea table and displaying his tea ceremony skills with a focused expression, he was rather surprised. However, he still called out respectfully, "Little friend, don't call me senior. It's too much for the old man. Although you are weak now, this is only your endless cycle of reincarnation. Sit." Chapter 10-12. The endless cycle of reincarnation is a new life. Before I truly awaken, you're still my senior. You're pressuring me. Chen Hao frowned slightly. Ah, that's good. You have to remember that it's not that the old man is looking down on you. It's that your state of mind can't bear it for the time being. Sit down and talk. Senior, why are you so afraid of me? It's just the endless cycle of reincarnation. This is my new life, and also my lifetime. Haha, that's your current state of mind, not your true state of mind. When you truly awaken, you'll know that the old man's current thoughts are for the future of the billions of lives in the entire vast thousand worlds. The old man can't have any mishaps. Alright. Senior, what do you plan to do with me? This is what the old man wanted to tell you. You've finally broken through the immortal scripture holy land. Since he promised you, the old man will naturally let you enter. He won't have any demands on you. But 10 years later, well, the immortal scripture holy land is 1,000 years later. The old man will directly erase all your imprints in the vast thousand worlds and send you to the Hongming domain. Hongming domain. Chen Hao frowned slightly. Senior, please tell me more about the Hongming domain. I've just awakened. With my previous strength, I didn't have any plans to enter the Hongming domain, so I know very little. That's not a problem. The old man did this to protect the vast thousand worlds. After all, we're not the great world of CND. We're very weak. You're an outsider, so you can't be imprinted in the vast thousand worlds. In fact, except for powerful existences like the great world of CND, all the vast thousand worlds are the same. They can't let outsiders know their true location. The Hongming domain exists in every vast thousand world, but it's an existence that's independent of the vast thousand worlds. It was also a realm that Daoyuo Jingxian had to enter when he ascended to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. You can comprehend the origin of Hongming Qi, obtain the mark of the macro world, and condense the prototype of the macro world in your mind. When the prototype of your macro world is close to perfection and triggers Heaven's punishment to advance to the Hongming realm, Heaven's punishment will open the Milky Way tunnel that connects the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and send you back to the boundless world before you entered. After Old Man erased your mark in the boundless world of chaos, Heaven's punishment will not send you back to the boundless world of chaos when you advance to the Hongming realm. Then where will we be teleported to? Chen Hao was shocked. Previously, he didn't know the real situation in the Hongming domain. With the strength of Li Mubai and the others, they didn't dare to enter the Hongming domain, so their knowledge was limited. Now the words of the immortal scripture city master made Chen Hao excited. The great world of CND. Anyone who loses the mark of the boundless world will be exiled. Only the great world of CND, which is open to all boundless worlds, will accept practitioners without the mark. What kind of existence is the great world of CND? Chen Hao asked. He knew that since the immortal scripture city master told him this frankly, there was no possibility of changing it. Therefore, he could only learn more information. It's an existence that's hundreds and thousands of times more powerful than the Hongming domain. The so-called geniuses of our boundless world are reduced to the most ordinary disciples there. Anyone who is born and raised in the great world of CND has an overall talent and potential that is several levels higher than our boundless world. There are countless top geniuses. This is the real reason why they dare to open it to all boundless worlds. They are not afraid of being discovered by any boundless world. They also welcome you to become a member of their boundless world, regardless of strength or talent. As long as you can survive. That place is hell for the mediocre and heaven for the strong. If you can come back alive from there, you will at least become a Tao-severing perfected immortal. The immortal scripture city master looked at Chen Hao's eyes that were no longer empty. Seeing that there was no fear in Chen Hao's expression other than excitement, he praised him in his heart and continued. However, there are many who dare to go there, but only a few who can come back. Especially when one's realm is higher, the chances of coming back are lower. On the contrary, in the Hongming domain, the cultivators who directly stepped into the great world of CND when they triggered heaven's punishment to advance to the Hongming domain have a higher chance of coming back. Zhou Qinglong, Yin Xian, Xiang Tiange, and the other 8 people are the people that the old man is going to send to the great world of CND. It's also because of this that they haven't stepped into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm until now. They have to condense the embryonic form of the great world of CND to the most perfect level of their own talent. Only then can they have greater improvement, and the possibility of coming back. Of course, the old man won't erase their imprints related to the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds. Otherwise, they really won't be able to come back. When their heaven's punishment appears in the Milky Way tunnel that connects the 9 heavens and 10 earths, there will be 2 paths. One will directly return to the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds, and the other will enter the great world of CND. As for you, after the old man erases your imprint in the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds, you can only enter the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds. Is it possible to return to the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds before the endless cycle of reincarnation? This is impossible. Before the cycle of reincarnation, since you connected the 9 heavens and 10 earths to enter other vast 1,000 chaotic worlds, then before you fully awaken, it's impossible for your original vast 1,000 chaotic worlds imprint to appear. Unless what? Unless you originally came from the great world of CND. However, the probability of this is almost 0. Although your talent and potential are definitely qualified to be a genius disciple of the great world of CND, no practitioner from the great world of CND would define the endless cycle of reincarnation as a low-level vast 1,000 chaotic worlds. That's simply meaningless. Senior, have you been to the great world of CND? Of course I have, and I go there often. Your master, Duan Ziyu, has also been there. Basically, all the top experts in the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds have been there, but only the old man dares to go there often. This has nothing to do with realm and strength. Wherever you go, you will only face opponents of the same realm as you. That's a world with absolute laws, and no one will violate them. The most suitable place is the true genius. That's a paradise for practitioners to improve rapidly. Duan Ziyu was the name of the 5th great elder. Oh, thank you for your advice, senior. You seem to be looking forward to it. Yes. You don't have any objections to what the old man has done? Of course not. Different standpoints naturally make different considerations. If I were you, I would make the same decision as you. What's more, I want a wider stage, Chen Hao said without hesitation. He was indeed looking forward to it and was very excited, but it was not as simple as he said. It was not entirely because of the great world of the immortal emperor. Pursuing the peak of martial arts was his obsession. The great world of CND indeed made him yearn for it, but what he was really looking forward to was what would happen when he triggered the heavenly punishment in the Hongming domain. Because he was not the so-called endless cycle of reincarnation of the immortal scripture city. Chapter 10:13. Li Mubai was taken away by the master of the immortal scripture city. Don't tell me he won't be given a chance to enter the sacred land of the immortal scripture? It shouldn't be. The master summoned 9 monstrous geniuses to stop him, but they couldn't stop him. There's no reason not to let him enter at this time. Who knows? Nguyen Tanlan is a little pitiful. In the void, the disciples who had obtained the qualifications to enter the sacred land of the immortal scripture, and were also rushing back to their palaces to wait for sunset to arrive. They stared blankly at Nguyen Tanlan, who was standing in the void. When the master sent out 2 beams of immortal light to envelop the 2 of them, it attracted the attention of these cultivators. By now, basically everyone already knew about Li Mubai's situation. He could guess the basic reason why the master had taken him away. He's really quite pitiful. It's said that on the day when Tanlan obtained the 3 treasures of the immortal scripture, the 2 of them were only Tao companions in name. It's really a pity. They just paid the price of their primordial Yin body and became true Tao companions, but they're going to be separated forever. What do you know? I heard from the disciples of the Hunyuan sect that Nguyen Tan Lan and Li Mubai had no interaction at all before entering the secret grotto heaven of the Hunyuan sect. Before that, Li Mubai was just a nobody in the Hunyuan sect, and Nguyen Tan Lan was a genius of the Hunyuan sect. It was impossible for them to have any interaction at all. But when Li Mubai entered the perverted demonic realm in the secret grotto heaven, Nguyen Tan Lan had always been by his side. Perhaps at that time, Nguyen Tan Lan saw enough benefits from Li Mubai's rise. Probably. I'm a little suspicious that Nguyen Tan Lan obtained the 3 treasures of the immortal scripture because of Li Mubai. Think about it, they were only Dao companions in name before, but after obtaining the 3 treasures of the immortal scripture, with Nguyen Tan Lan's temperament, how could she not know how great her value was? But when did she give her primordial body to Li Mubai? It's obvious that Li Mubai can give her more room for improvement. And everyone saw the battle of these 9 days. It's really a changed day. What's the use of saying this? Look at her now. Does she look like she's doing this for the sake of benefits? That's true. She's really pitiful, like this. When Tan Lan stood in the void in a daze, her eyes were still fixed on the direction Li Mubai was taken by the immortal light, and she murmured Nguyen Tan Lan's name. Her beautiful face, which was not stunning but was very attractive, was covered with sparkling tears. Anyone could see that at this moment, Nguyen Tan Lan must be heartbroken. Moreover, she must have fallen in love with Li Mubai, and not for benefits. At least, no matter whether it was before or not, it was definitely not for benefits now. Mubai, Mubai, Mubai. Nguyen Tan Lan's voice was almost numb. She allowed her emotions to spread and her mind to be filled with his figure. The 100 years of cultivation together in the cave of the secret realm, but there was no communication. After stepping into the immortal Sutra city, his subconscious dependence on her like a newborn baby. She obtained the immortal Sutra magic treasure. She almost died because of Li Mubai, and the fusion of yin and yang in order to save her life. Li Mubai's empty eyes filled every corner of her mind. She had always thought that she wanted to gain more from him. She had always thought that it was a coincidence, and that she was forced to give her primordial body to him. She did not care, but now, when the real parting was destined to be separated by thousands of galaxies, and the hope of seeing him again was so slim that it was close to none, she felt her heart ache. She knew that it was against her heartless state of mind, but at this time, she could not resist her own heart. Unfortunately, whether she had understood it long ago or now, it was meaningless. At least, that was what she thought in the depths of her heart. The ending was destined from the beginning. But her heart could never go back to the past. Serves you right. A figure in the crowd looked at Nguyen Tan Lan with a little gloating. It was Zhang Chong. When he learned that Li Mubai was an outsider, he was first surprised, then excited. Especially when he learned that Li Mubai would not be able to continue staying in the vast thousand chaotic world, he was overjoyed. At this moment, after Li Mubai was taken away by the immortal light emitted by the controller, he felt even better when he saw Nguyen Tan Lan's soulless and painful appearance. Situ Qian was rejected. I Zhang Chong may not be. After all, I am younger and have just obtained the immortal sutra magic treasure. My potential is endless. If I can get Nguyen Tan Lan. A crazy look flashed across Zhang Chong's face. Especially when he thought about how Li Mubai's woman would look like when he rode her under his body, he was extremely excited. He did not have the strength to compete with Li Mubai, and now he had no chance. If he could vent on Li Mubai's woman, especially on the woman who had fallen in love with him, how happy would that be? Chi. A flowing light suddenly appeared beside Nguyen Tan Lan as fast as lightning. Zhang Chong could not help it. However, although he was impulsive and irritable, Nguyen Tan Lan's strength was not something he could compete with. What he wanted to do was to take advantage of the situation. Senior Qing Lan. Zhang Chong suppressed the restlessness in his heart and said softly. Staring at Nguyen Tan Lan, whose face was covered in tears and whose eyes were glazed over, he felt more and more that if he could do it, it would be a very, very exciting thing. Don't be sad. Even without him, I, your junior brother, will take good care of you. Although I am a little weak now, I will definitely be very strong in the future. Zhang Chong said as he tried to pull Nguyen Tan Lan, who did not react at all. He did not dare to go too far in front of everyone, but it should not be a problem to take advantage of her and take her away to appease her. Perhaps if he won her favor, it would be done quickly. Scram. But at this moment, a voice suddenly broke through the air like a thunderclap. A flowing light directly blocked between Nguyen Tan Lan and Zhang Chong at an incredible speed. Huang. Huang. Brother Huang, what are you doing? Under the terrifying pressure, Zhang Chong's soul was almost shaken out by the scram, and his voice trembled as he retreated. With your face, you want to take care of Miss Ruan? Wipe your saliva and scram. If we were not in Xianjing City, you would already be a corpse. Huang Tianhua stared fiercely at Zhang Chong and said coldly. Zhang Chong's face suddenly turned ashen, and he was stunned for a full 10 seconds. He did not dare to let out a fart, and directly walked over with his head and face covered in dust. The other cultivators watched this dramatic scene unfold before their eyes. Although Zhang Chong hid it very well, when he approached Nguyen Tan Lan, most people could clearly see the lewd look in his eyes. It had to be said that this guy was really a bit of an idiot, and he did not have a brain at all. But no one expected that Huang Tianhua, the youngest monstrous genius of the Chaos Academy, would appear. Chapter 10-14. Huang Tianhua's position in the hearts of the people was definitely no less than that of the 9 great evildoers. Although his current strength was not as good as the 9 great evildoers, he was a rising bright star. His future achievements might not be comparable to those of the 9 great evildoers. After Zhang Chong left dejectedly, Huang Tianhua's expression slowly changed. He turned to look at Nguyen Tan Lan with deep sympathy and heartache in his eyes. He did not disturb Nguyen Tan Lan, but stood quietly at the side, as if he was guarding her. Many of the cultivators were shocked when they saw this. They still remembered that when Nguyen Tan Lan had obtained the second Immortal Sutra magic treasure, Huang Tianhua had appeared and expressed his love in front of countless people. However, Nguyen Tan Lan had rejected him on the grounds that Li Mubai was her Taoist companion. At that time, Nguyen Tan Lan still had the body of primordial Yin. Huang Tianhua had also acted very carefree. He had not been dissatisfied with Nguyen Tan Lan's rejection. On the contrary, he had said that he wanted to make friends with Li Mubai. In the eyes of many people, Huang Tianhua was confident, and he had not given up on Nguyen Tan Lan. But now Nguyen Tan Lan was a real woman, and Li Mubai had obtained her body of primordial Yin. Then, at this moment, why did Huang Tianhua appear again beside Nguyen Tan Lan? And why did he look at her with such a gaze? Those who could stay in the Immortal Sutra City at this moment were the top geniuses of the vast thousand chaotic world. Although they knew that Nguyen Tan Lan had 3 Immortal Sutra magic treasures, and her aura was extremely strong at this moment, and she definitely had a very powerful future, few of them were willing to be Li Mubai's successor, who would be able to bear such a loss of face. If in the future, when their potential was exhausted, there would be no problem in secretly dating. After all, at that time he would definitely reap a lot of benefits from the yin and yang of Nguyen Tan Lan. However, the most devilish Huang Tianhua actually appeared beside Nguyen Tan Lan at this time, and even stared at her with that kind of gaze. Miss Ruan is my Huang Tianhua's friend. If she is willing, she will be my Dao companion, my only Dao companion. If any of you have any ulterior motives, don't blame me, Huang Tianhua, for being impolite. These words were transmitted to all of you. However, it's not that I, Huang Tianhua, want to hide anything. It's just that I don't want Miss Ruan to have any prejudice against me. Huang Tianhua suddenly glanced at the cultivators not far away, and transmitted his voice to everyone's ears. He was already handsome, but at this moment his eyes were shining with cold killing intent. He wanted to let everyone know that he was not joking, but was serious. This made everyone even more dumbfounded. In particular, some young female disciples looked at Nguyen Tan Lan with eyes that were no longer pitiful, but jealous. Why do I feel that Brother Huang doesn't seem like he's trying to obtain a greater improvement? I have the same feeling. However, for such a devilish genius, even if he's faking his emotions, we can't see through it. Perhaps he really doesn't care and has really fallen in love. Several disciples of the Chaos Academy secretly conversed. Situqian clenched his fists tightly, but soon loosened them again. He knew that even without Li Mubai, Wen Tanlan was not someone he could touch. It could be seen from the way the other disciples of the Chaos Academy alienated him. Mubai T. Wen Tanlan's sluggish eyes suddenly lit up, and she immediately turned into a stream of light and flew toward the palace that the disciples of the immortal scripture city lived in. Huang Tianhua was slightly taken aback by the instantaneous speed that seemed like teleportation. Soon after, Huang Tianhua quickly followed. So fast. It seems to contain the aura of the great teleportation technique. Let's go. At this time, the onlooking cultivators also left one after another and returned to their respective palaces. Mubai, when Wen Tanlan appeared at the entrance of the palace, she raised the token, opened the palace door, and closed it immediately. She looked like she had lost her soul, as if she had gone crazy. Huang Tianhua watched Wen Tanlan enter the palace before shaking his head and disappearing into the void. In the palace, Wen Tanlan went to the cultivation room, the sacred bath, the bedroom, and the hall. Under the laws of space and time, after an unknown period of time, she suddenly burst into tears. She squatted on the ground, curled up her body, and tore at her hair. The immortal scripture sacred ground is about to open. All disciples, please come to the City Lord's mansion immediately. The City Lord's mansion was also the mansion of the controller. The door to Ruan Qinglan's palace quickly opened. Her fine black hair was once again neatly combed and coiled up. In just half a day, her expression and gaze seemed to have changed into a completely different person. She was no longer the same person. This kind of change surprised many curious people. Even Huang Tianhua was surprised. That was because there was no longer any sadness in her eyes. Instead, there was only a kind of determination. Huang Tianhua leaped to Wen Tanlan's side. Miss Ruan. Thank you. Wen Tanlan did not stop. Instead, she sped up and left these two words. Huang Tianhua frowned slightly. He paused and shook his head, tactfully not following her, even though he had the ability to. Soon, everyone arrived at the City Lord's mansion, which was shrouded in immortal light. Wen Tanlan stared unblinkingly at the core of the City Lord's mansion, where the immortal light was growing stronger and stronger. Even though it was her first time here, she could be sure that it was the door to the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra that was slowly opening. Dao companions who wanted to travel together were already holding hands tightly. Friends who wanted to travel together were also doing the same. Miss Ruan, the pressure in the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra is very strong. If one travels alone, at least half of his energy and time will be used to resist the pressure. However, it is more important for us to comprehend the Immortal Sutra. I don't mean anything else. If you are willing, you can come with us. This way, if we take turns resisting the pressure, we will reap greater rewards. Thank you for your kindness, Wen Tanlan said directly without any change in her gaze. All right, Huang Tianhua said helplessly. Buzz. An hour later, dazzling immortal light and terrifying pressure suddenly gushed out. The door to the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra had finally opened. The sacred land of the Immortal Sutra has opened. Please enter immediately. Chi. There was no need for a reminder. Figures rushed in one after another. The moment they entered the pressure of the immortal light, they seemed to have merged into an endless whirlpool and disappeared instantly. At this moment, Wen Tanlan did not move at all. She stared with wide eyes at every figure that entered the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. Please enter quickly. You only have 10 seconds. At this moment, a stream of light suddenly descended from the void. Wen Tanlan, who had released all her divine sense to sense, suddenly raised her head. Chapter 10:15. The familiar figure, the familiar face, and the familiar empty eyes flashed past. The last glance was fixed on Wen Tanlan's eyes. Mubai. She did not shout or send a voice transmission. Only her eyes shone with an incomparably determined light. She suddenly chased after the stream of light and entered the entrance of the Immortal Sutra sacred land. She's truly a rare woman. What Wen Tanlan did not know was that Chen Hao, who passed by in a flash, had also seen her and deliberately sized her up carefully. Wen Tanlan's appearance made him sigh in admiration, making him feel even less burdened. He knew that she did not enter first because she was waiting for him to take a look. Perhaps it was just a look. Being lucky in love doesn't mean that all women will fall for him. Fortunately, it's not that bad. My worries were unnecessary. The moment Wen Tanlan entered, Huang Tianhua also directly merged into the immortal light. The Immortal Sutra Sacred Land, unless they merged into one when entering, would be teleported to an independent area. Wen Tanlan knew that glance was their farewell. His empty eyes might not have seen her at all. She did not shout or send a voice transmission. It was meaningless. Stepping onto the peak of martial arts was still her obsession, but now she had an additional goal. Although the hope was slim, or perhaps impossible, she resolutely merged the two. This made her martial arts heart firmer, more substantial, and more intense. Little did she know, they had missed it once, and missed it again. One deliberately pretended to seal all her divine senses, and the other was silently played by fate, brushing past each other just like that. Good temperament. The master of the Immortal Sutra City was also paying attention to Wen Tanlan's every move. If Wen Tanlan's performance was too intense, he would definitely make a move. After all, if Chen Hao proposed to take Wen Tanlan away at this time, he really could not refuse. That was not what he wanted. If Wen Tanlan stayed in the chaotic universe, she would become a bargaining chip in the future. There was no point in leaving. Similarly, if Wen Tanlan had a new Dao companion here, it would also be meaningless. This was also the reason why he didn't make a move when he saw Wen Tanlan's true feelings. Such a thing might seem insignificant, but if something really went wrong, it could become the key. I hope that kid doesn't comprehend too much. The Immortal Sutra Holy Land. Even the controller, Old Man, only reached the 99th level. The previous controller reached the 104th level. And the previous controller reached the 115th level. How many levels are there? This was a mystery. No one knew. The uniqueness of the immortal scripture Holy Land was no less than that of the Hongmeng domain, which connected the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The boundless chaos world was born because of it. In the endless years until now, the highest record of comprehension in the vast 1,000 worlds was 115 levels. Buzz. After a terrifying distortion in spacetime, Chen Hao appeared in an ice blue, beautiful, and fantastical space. However, it was a narrow spherical space with a diameter of only 10,000 feet. The space was surrounded by azure blue like the sky and the sea. The sparkling waves were the Tao traces of the Immortal Sutra, containing 3 different kinds of pressure. This was obviously the amalgamation of the 3 great Immortal Sutras. The thick spirit chi of heaven and earth and the majestic pressure of the Immortal Sutra were not very strong for Chen Hao, but they made him excited. Almost instantly, he sensed that this was not at all comparable to the pressure of the pagoda steel in the secret grotto heaven of the Hunyuan sect. This was not about the size of the pressure, but the mystery contained in the pressure. This was the most essential mystery of the 3 great Immortal Sutras. The secret grotto heaven was obtained by the masters of the Hunyuan sect through their own Immortal Sutras. Comprehending the secret grotto heaven's pagoda steel was like catching a fish. And comprehending the 3 great Immortal Sutras of the origin was like catching a fish. Only by comprehending the origin could one comprehend a divine ability that truly belonged to oneself, and was suitable for oneself. Phew. As long as I can comprehend one of the 3 Immortal Sutra Tao traces to the limit of this space, I can enter the next level. It's very simple. Although the secret grotto heaven's pagoda steel was comprehended by the masters of the past, I can more or less comprehend some of the true Immortal Sutras by tracing the source. Buzz. The space between Chen Hao's eyebrows suddenly flickered, and the spiritual altar unscrupulously bloomed. This is the aura of the Earth Desolation Sutra. This is the aura of the Heavenly Emperor Sutra. This is the aura of the Primal Chaos Sutra. This is the most basic Immortal Sutra, so powerful. Chen Hao was excited. No matter how strong his ability to trace the source was, when faced with the 3 great Immortal Sutras, Chen Hao could not directly comprehend the true Immortal Sutra from the Tao traces left behind by others. But now, The mysterious aura in front of him was the most basic origin of the three great immortal sutras. Although the first level was very weak, it was the cornerstone of the three great immortal sutras. Phew. I must do my best to improve myself in the next 1,000 years under the laws of space and time. The Hongming domain, the Hongming realm, the great world of Xiandi. Similarly, I can also return to the primal chaos universe. And my current strength is still too weak. Chi. Boom. Chen Hao no longer hesitated. His sealed emotions gushed out from the immortal light of the Tao manifestation immortal tree in the great world of his mind, causing Chen Hao to enter a frenzied state. Chi 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 chi. Terrifying devouring power was displayed once again, but this time, Chen Hao did not blindly devour. Instead, he devoured for a period of time, and comprehended with all his might for a period of time. Only by truly comprehending would he be able to enter the next level, which was even more powerful. Swallowing without thinking was not something that could be done at any time. The 10th level. Phew! In the beautiful space, Nguyen Tan Lan's eyes shone brightly, and her beautiful face shone with excitement. 300 years, 10 levels. From what she knew, Situ Qian, who had been here many times, had only comprehended up to the 8th level. However, when she came here for the first time, she only used 300 years out of 1,000 years to comprehend the 10th level. This kind of progress could be said to be astonishing. All of this was given to me by you, Mubai. It's been 300 years. You should have reached the 20th or 30th level, or perhaps even deeper, right? Farewell. I don't believe it. The peak of martial arts is elusive, but it is the goal and obsession of all cultivators. Someone will be able to achieve it. When we meet again, there is no need for me to reach the peak of martial arts. As long as I am strong enough, I can do it. What is there to fear? I can definitely do it. Buzz. Nguyen Tan Lan's body shone even brighter as she immersed herself in comprehending the 10th level. The 106th level. Nguyen Tan Lan did not know that when she entered the 10th level and guessed that Chen Hao might have reached the 20th or 30th level. Chen Hao had stepped into the 106th level like a hot knife through butter. On average, he reached one level in less than 3 years. Even Chen Hao was extremely surprised. He was not surprised by his own comprehension speed, but by the origin of the three great immortal scriptures. It seemed to originate from the primary principle of the great Tao. In the beginning he was not sure. However, as his comprehension increased, passages of the primary principle of the great Tao appeared in his mind from time to time. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 10:16. Since Chen Hao had realized the importance of the Grand Tao, the Grand Tao outline had practically been running through his cultivation. Whether it was tempering his true essence or comprehending profound talisman markings or ultimate techniques, he only had to spare a strand of his mind to recite it, and it would allow his efficiency to increase by several times. At the beginning, Chen Hao was utterly unable to understand it. Even now, he could only comprehend a little bit. Most of the time he knew the meaning but didn't know the reason. He only understood the literal meaning, and couldn't be considered to have comprehended it at all. But now, starting from the most basic profoundness of the three great immortal scriptures, he went from shallow to deep step by step. When he comprehended a certain level, a sentence from the Grand Tao outline suddenly appeared in his mind. Moreover, it just happened to confirm his previous comprehension. Although there was still a slight discrepancy, it allowed Chen Hao to have a deeper understanding of the Grand Tao outline. It also allowed Chen Hao to be sure that the three great immortal scriptures definitely originated from the Grand Tao outline. Moreover, it was an extraordinary existence that had a profound understanding of the Grand Tao outline. Under such circumstances, Chen Hao was like a fish in water. He'd completely forgotten the passage of time, and he'd even forgotten that his body and soul were enduring more and more terrifying pressure. Especially after he arrived at the 60th level. Even if it was his abnormal body and soul, the pain he endured was rather enormous. However, he didn't notice it at all, and his mind was completely immersed in comprehension. The Grand Tao outline in his mind allowed Chen Hao to comprehend the three great immortal scriptures at a shocking speed. Moreover, the three great immortal scriptures' comprehension from shallow to deep allowed Chen Hao to deepen his comprehension of the grand Tao outline. They complemented and promoted each other. What a terrifying pressure. 300 years 106th level. It was only when Chen Hao entered the 106th level that Chen Hao was forced to jump out from the deep level of comprehension for the first time. The terrifying pressure had practically pressed down on him to the point he couldn't breathe. His body and soul were in extreme pain. Especially after he jumped out of the selfless state of comprehension, he felt that the pressure had expanded by 10 times or 100 times in an instant. Have I reached the limit of what I can endure? Bang! Chen Hao forcefully agitated the energy, true essence, and soul in his body to alleviate the pain at this moment. At the same time, for the first time, he consciously and madly devoured the dense world energy and pressure. That's not right. At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly frowned. 106 levels, and the pressure increases with each level. It's impossible for it to increase so much all of a sudden. This is because it's beyond my selflessness. It's because I'm not focused enough. It's not because I've reached my limit. Otherwise, my soul and body wouldn't be in perfect condition. That means I'm far from reaching my limit. Qi. Thinking up to this point, Chen Hao actually retracted his essence, spirit, Zhen Yuan and soul power, allowing himself to once again fall into the terrifying pressure. Facing the pressure head-on. Qi. In an instant, Chen Hao felt that every cell in his body and every strand of thought in his soul was being crazily suppressed, as if he had fallen into a situation where he could collapse at any time. However, Chen Hao's eyes were wide open. Other than seeing himself break out in a cold sweat, there was nothing out of the ordinary. True selflessness is my true self. The current me's endurance, especially my willpower's endurance, is clearly far inferior to when I was truly selfless. I'll endure until I'm used to this degree of pain. Chen Hao put down all his thoughts and continued to stare. He didn't use the slightest bit of energy, didn't use any divine ability, and just fought against this terrifying pressure. Every minute and every second felt extremely long, but Chen Hao clenched his teeth and endured. There was no doubt that this was a crazy and unreasonable thing to do. But this wasn't the first time Chen Hao had tempered his willpower like this. Facing pain head-on was something he had done at a very low level. Now that he was in the Daluo Golden Wonderland, he was once again using the simplest, cruelest, and most effective method to destroy himself. 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, 1 month, 3 months, the pain his body and soul endured became stronger and stronger, more and more painful. After enduring for nearly half a year, Chen Hao's body and soul began to violently tremble at almost the same time. And then his mind exploded with a boom. At this moment, Chen Hao felt as if he had become an immortal. His entire body and soul were filled with endless comfort, as if all the pressure had disappeared, and there was no more pain to speak of. It was also at this moment that Chen Hao's glabella shone with a dazzling light. His soul blossomed on its own, sparkling and translucent like jade, untainted by even a speck of dust. Breakthrough. Chen Hao's blood-stained mouth slowly cracked open, revealing a brilliant smile. This was a breakthrough in willpower. Naturally, Chen Hao entered the state of thoughtless tranquility and selflessness in an extremely relaxed manner. His entire mind was instantly integrated into the mysteries contained in the pressure of the Immortal Sutra, and he began to comprehend once more. In the blink of an eye, another 300 years had passed. Chen Hao once again jumped out of the deep level of comprehension on his own. 246th level. It's much faster than before I woke up last time. Very good, continue. With the previous experience, Chen Hao didn't even think about it this time. He retracted all his energy and faced the boundless pain head-on. This time, it took him a full 10 years to break through the limits of his willpower. Sensing the endless comfort of the bitter end, Chen Hao once again entered the selfless state of cultivation. But boom! What's going on? When Chen Hao comprehended all the mysteries of the 3 major Immortal Sutras to the extreme, and thought that he was about to enter the 247th level, the space he was in suddenly surged with endless immortal light and a terrifying pressure of Tao laws. It was completely out of Chun Hao's control, and his entire body was enveloped by a mysterious force, rushing into the endless void with a boom. What's going on? Almost at the same time, in the City Lord's mansion of the Immortal Sutra City, the phantom of the City Lord was suddenly shocked. With a swoosh, he rushed out of the palace and looked at the terrifying surge of the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land's exit with a horrified expression. It had only been 6 years since Chun Hao and the others entered the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land. The entrance and exit opened at the same time, and they opened once every 10 years. It was completely out of the control of the City Lord of the Immortal Sutra City, and there had never been the slightest error. At this time, how could the exit of the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land emit such a terrifying fluctuation? As if it was about to open? Buzz. Open. It actually opened? Gee, what? The phantom of the City Lord of the Immortal Sutra City suddenly widened his eyes, looking at the figure shooting out from the exit that seemed to connect the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Li Mubai. What's going on? Chun Hao and the City Lord of the Immortal Sutra City looked at each other and asked in unison. How did I come out? How did you come out? The two said at the same time again. Chapter 10:17. Didn't you summon me out? Chun Hao frowned and said, We agreed to let me finish comprehending this realm. Forget it, since that's the case. Send me away. Aye. How could I summon you out? I can't control the Immortal Scripture Holy Land at all. It opens once every 10 years, and no one can change it. Besides, since I promised to let you in, I can't go back on my word. The Immortal Scripture City Master was extremely shocked. He didn't even call himself old man. He directly stared at Chun Hao and said, That's strange. I was about to enter the next level. Why was I suddenly sent out? Chun Hao saw that the other party was even more shocked than him. It didn't seem like he was lying to him. Closed. Could it be that I sent you out? Could it be that the Immortal Scripture Holy Land sensed that you were an outsider and didn't allow you to continue comprehending? This? I'm not sure. What a pity. The 3 great immortal scriptures are incomparably mysterious. There are still more than 3 years left. I can still comprehend a lot. Chun Hao said regretfully. 246th level. The last sentence that appeared in his mind was the Grand Tao outline, but it was only about 2/3 of the Grand Tao outline. How many levels have you comprehended? Hearing Chun Hao's words, the Immortal Scripture City Master's phantom couldn't help but ask. Not many levels. How many levels does the Immortal Scripture Holy Land have? Chun Hao didn't know anything about the situation in the Immortal Scripture Holy Land. Li Mubai and the others also had blank memories. I don't know. Don't know. Yes, no one knows how many levels there are in the Immortal Scripture City, because no one can comprehend it thoroughly. How many levels have you comprehended? The Immortal Scripture City Master asked again. He didn't want Li Mubai, an outsider, to comprehend too much. However, he also knew that with Li Mubai's talent and terrifying immortal fate, he would definitely comprehend much more than other people. It's more than 200 levels. What? 200? More than 200 levels? Oh. You mean more than 200 words, right? More than 200 words. Chun Hao was slightly stunned. More than that. I'm talking about levels. What a pity there's at least a third. Plop. Senior, you are. What surprised Chun Hao was that the Immortal Scripture City Lord's shadow actually sat down on the ground and seemed to be staring at him in shock. Don't call me senior. I'll send you off. Before you leave, please accept my kneeling. Bang. What made Chun Hao even more dumbfounded was that the master of the Immortal Scripture City actually knelt before him with a bang and said, I represent the vast 1,000 realms of Hongmeng. If you come back, please don't make things difficult for the billions of beings here. We are very weak. Oh right, I understand why you came out. It's because you finished comprehending, and there is no deeper level for you to comprehend. I know that you should have come out to play. The endless cycle of reincarnation is child's play to you. Chun Hao's eyes widened. Looking at the incoherent controller's phantom, He was frightened by the old man's actions. Fuck, he was just a Daoyuo Jinxian. He was not even an ant in front of him, and he was actually kowtowing to him? Senior, you can't do that. Plop. Men had gold under their knees, but Chun Hao still knelt down without hesitation after a brief moment of surprise. Other than that, he really could not think of any other action that could bear the old man's kowtow. Buzz. However, at this moment, a beam of immortal light suddenly lifted Chun Hao up. Chun Hao simply could not resist, nor could he resist. Bang bang bang. Senior, don't kill me. The master of the immortal scripture city knocked his head on the ground 3 times in a row, and the earth shook. While kowtowing, he said, "You have not awakened yet, and do not know how strong you are. I'm kneeling to the real you, not the current you. I only hope that in the future, I can show some respect to the vast 1,000 realms of chaos where you once lived. I have already erased all your imprints in the vast 1,000 realms of chaos. I hope we don't meet. If we really meet, I hope you will be merciful." Senior, what are you talking about? You will understand after you awaken. Goodbye. Buzz. After the phantom of the master of the immortal scripture city finished speaking, he suddenly waved his hand, and a powerful space-time gate appeared in the void. Immediately, Chun Hao felt endless immortal light binding him, and sending him directly into it. Am I that scary? Chun Hao smiled bitterly, and entered the space-time tunnel. After the master of the immortal scripture city saw the space-time tunnel disappear, he stood up from the ground with cold sweat. It was like a dream, but he knew that all of this was real. Kneeling. He did not complain at all. There was no pretense. The great world of Xiandi. The ancient legend is true. To be able to comprehend all 3 great immortal scriptures. After awakening, won't he be able to? Which of the legends is he? I hope, sigh. Shaking his head, the master of the immortal scripture city did not dare to think about it anymore. Buzz. In the space-time gate where space-time was distorted, Chun Hao felt that several hours had passed. The space-time tunnel suddenly shook violently, and Chun Hao appeared in a new world. In the wilderness, there was sky and earth, but it was hazy. Chaos began to open, and Hongming appeared for the first time. The world was filled with rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In this spiritual energy of heaven and earth, there was an aura that did not exist outside the Hongming domain, Hongming Qi. Of course, Chun Hao could not sense it at this moment. Hongming domain. Is this the Hongming domain that every vast 1,000 domains has? It is indeed different from the vast 1,000 domains. Chun Hao looked at the surrounding environment, his handsome face shining with a touch of excitement. A new beginning, a new domain. No one could monitor him, and he did not have to worry about any high-level cultivators appearing here. Although those below the level of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland could appear here, they were not allowed to enter the vast 1,000 chaotic domains. Only those who had reached the great perfection of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland could enter here. As long as the Supreme Hongmeng stepped in here, they would activate the Star Core Tunnel, and be directly transported to the great world of Xiandi, or immediately return to the vast 1,000 chaotic domains. Phew. I want to enter the Hongmeng domain as soon as possible. It's time. Qi. Chun Hao turned into a stream of light, and his powerful soul perception swept out in an instant, frantically spreading in all directions. A moment later, he appeared on a mountain peak with rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Here it is. Buzz. Chun Hao's glabella bloomed with a bright light, and a naked figure appeared in front of him. The body was covered with mysterious runes, and crystal light shot out in all directions. It also contained the majestic and pure vitality of the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree. Chapter 10:18. Chun Hao's original body. When he was in the demonic berserk realm, the third anima was born from his subconscious. It had completely fused with the soul of Chun Hao's original body, but because of Li Mubai's identity, the 2 bodies had yet to fuse. Because of this, even though Chun Hao's soul realm had reached the great circle of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, his physical body's essence, energy, and vitality couldn't match the great circle of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. Therefore, he hadn't been able to trigger even a single minor heavenly punishment. Chen Hao knew that as long as his true self's fleshly body fused with the fleshly body of the third anima, and tempered it to the great circle of the golden immortal of the great circle of the great circle of the golden immortal of the great circle 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 of golden immortal, at that time, his strength would definitely increase tremendously. Similarly, only when both his physical body and soul reached the great circle of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, could he begin to comprehend Hongmeng Qi. As for the great circle imprint in his mind, Chen Hao couldn't figure out what would happen to a special existence like himself before he obtained it. After all, because of the mysterious spiritual treasure in his mind, he had long possessed a great circle imprint in his mind. Moreover, by now, it wasn't inferior to the great circle imprint of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm cultivators. After Chen Hao's physical body stepped out of the mental space, a terrifying fluctuation suddenly flashed from between the eyebrows of Chen Hao's third-ranked physical body. It directly entered between the eyebrows of Chen Hao's physical body. Then, Chen Hao's physical body suddenly opened its eyes. Explode! Rumble! Following Chen Hao's shout, the third body suddenly exploded in a very small area, turning into a bloody mist containing terrifying energy, vitality, and essence, energy and vitality. It directly surrounded Chen Hao's original body. Chi 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 chi. The fusion had officially begun. The vast Milky Way was dotted with stars. Countless stars formed a myriad of galaxies that crisscrossed with nebulae. It was unknown how many universes existed in the Milky Way. Cultivators, even if they were Tao-severing true immortals, could see the endless stars in the Great Thousand World. However, it was extremely difficult for them to reach the stars, especially after a certain distance of light years. It would be impossible for them to reach the stars even if they exhausted their lifespan. The only way to travel in the starry sky was to tear open the space barrier and enter the chaotic space. In this mysterious, violent, and vast chaotic space, where one could see stars falling at any time, and where fragments of stars could be seen everywhere, cultivators could only instinctively sense the Great Thousand World they were in. This was because there was a cultivator's brand there. Other than that, if one wanted to enter the other great wide worlds, it would depend on luck. Being so close yet worlds apart, brushing past each other was the most normal thing. It was also for this reason that the Greater Thousand Worlds, which varied in strength, had a relatively stable space for development. If any cultivator in the chaotic space could easily sense the existence of other Greater Thousand Worlds, then only the strongest Greater Thousand World would be left behind. When powerful cultivators encountered a bottleneck that they could no longer break through in the original Greater World, they would usually choose to connect the endless samsara of the 9 heavens and 10 earths, seal their connection with the imprint of their own Greater World, and enter a new Greater World. Different Greater Worlds had different cultivation foundations, and could bring samsara travelers a new cultivation system. After awakening, the cultivation systems and magical powers of the 2 Greater Worlds would collide, broadening the cultivator's vision and state of mind. It was possible to break the shackles and break through the bottleneck. However, only a few dared to do so. This was because even top experts did not know which Greater Thousand Worlds they would end up in after falling into the endless cycle of samsara. They did not even know if they could reach the level they had sealed. In such a situation, it was very likely that they would fall into an endless cycle of samsara and never wake up again. If Chen Hao was really in the endless samsara, after the master of the immortal scripture city erased his imprint in the chaotic Greater World, it was certain that he could only enter the great world of Xiandi in the Hongmeng domain. However, Chen Hao was not. Without the imprint in the chaotic universe, he had the imprint in the ancient chaos universe. As for the earth, the moment he was born he had connected the 9 heavens and 10 earths and came to the Wuji star in the ancient chaos universe. It was hard to say whether he could leave the imprint on the earth. His thick and majestic blood qi surrounded Chen Hao's body, and was gradually integrated into every cell of Chen Hao's original body. As time passed, the blood qi gradually faded, and the aura released by Chen Hao's original body also became stronger and stronger. In this state of unintentional activation, The surging blood qi fluctuations could be sensed from hundreds of millions of miles away. Old man Ji, you also sensed it. Nonsense, what pure blood qi, what powerful vitality. It's very far away. At least 15 million miles. Of course I know. Otherwise, how can I say that such weak fluctuations are strong? Well, do you want to do it or not? I'm a dying man struggling at death's door. With such pure blood qi and vitality, do you think I wouldn't dare to do it? Let's go. All right. Let's make it clear, this time it's 50-50. Otherwise, I won't be able to hold on for many years. Without my help, you won't be able to live for long if you meet me. Damn it, fine. Qi. The two old men, whose life force was dim and were clearly nearing the end of their lifespans, suddenly turned into two streaks of light and headed in the direction of the blood qi at an extremely terrifying speed. The primordial domain was filled with existences at the perfection stage of the golden immortal realm. There were many young monstrous geniuses, but most of them were old fellows that had been trapped there for hundreds of thousands of years, or even 1,000,000 years. These people were limited by their talent, comprehension, and opportunities. Some could not sense the Hongmeng qi, and some could not obtain the Great World Mark. In short, they were imprisoned in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, and could not become supreme in Hongmeng. Moreover, many of these old men were near the end of their lifespans. These old men would do anything to prolong their lives. It was common for people to eat other people, especially young people, to obtain their blood qi and vitality and prolong their own lives. This was one of the biggest reasons why the Hongmeng domain was called a land of death. These old men who had lived for countless years, and were imprisoned in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, could be said to have raised the strength of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland to their limits. They had rich combat experience and powerful combat skills. Such people were like a pack of bloodthirsty wolves in the primordial domain. Many young geniuses had become food on their plates. It was for this reason that the young Daoyuo Jingxian did not dare to enter unless he had absolute confidence in his own strength. Even if he had reached the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, he would not dare to enter. Under normal circumstances, one could only enter after raising their combat strength and combat skills to their limits. These were usually geniuses with powerful combat strength. As for those with weaker combat strength, even if they raised their overall strength to their limits, they would not dare to enter. They would only enter when they were near the end of their lifespans. If they did not succeed, they would become one of these bloodthirsty wolves. Chapter 10:19. What a tempting smell. Why can't I sense it? It's very weak, but very tempting, very tempting. It's at least 50 million miles away from us. Let's go quickly. Otherwise, someone else will beat us to it. Alright. Chi. Several streaks of light shot through the sky. The same thing happened in a radius of a few 100 million miles. At least 10,000 people were waiting in the area where the probability of appearing was the highest, heading toward the source of the ripples. Why isn't he here yet? The distance is wrong. It seems more tempting than we thought. It's already 80 million miles away, but he's still not here. Could it be that a top genius has entered? If that's the case, we have to be careful. Soon, many of the old fellows frowned in astonishment because their judgment of the distance was completely wrong. Moreover, the difference was beyond their limits. How can there be so many top geniuses? He must be moving quickly. However, he's not as fast as us. His aura has become stronger. Chase, increase our speed. What these people didn't know was that Chen Hao hadn't moved a single inch even though he was radiating blood energy and life force. Similarly, they did not know that the bloodthirsty wolves, who were rushing over from all directions, had the same thought, which was that the young cultivator who had just entered was moving at high speed. They did not expect the other party's blood and vitality to be so unbelievably strong. They could not be blamed for this. They could only blame Chen Hao for being too monstrous. Perhaps these fellows deserved to be unlucky. As Chen Hao's two bodies merged, the blood mist became thinner and thinner. The blood and vitality that he emitted also became weaker and weaker. Under such circumstances, the old fellows who were rushing over did not even realize what kind of monstrous existence this was. Not to mention them, Even the 9 great monstrous geniuses who could do as they pleased in the Grand Mist domain had to avoid Chen Hao when they saw him. Moreover, that was before Chen Hao's body had merged with his body. But now, there was no need for him to enter the state of madness. Chen Hao could handle it. We've caught up. Don't move. Fuck, why are there so many people? The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Motherfucker, no one actually made the first move? When some people were tens of thousands of miles away from Chen Hao, they were shocked to find that countless auras were rapidly approaching from all directions around Chen Hao. After sensing each other's auras, they all stopped and did not take the initiative to attack. In such a situation, the people who rushed over later did not dare to attack, and the number of old fellows increased. What a young life. This kid is a monstrous genius. If I devour and refine his blood qi, I'll be able to extend my lifespan by at least 100,000 years. Very strong. Unfortunately, there are too many of them. Let's find a few old fellows to work with. Without a fight, I'm afraid it will be difficult to obtain it. What kind of body technique is this brat cultivating? He even released the blood essence and then swallowed it back. Could it be that he has swallowed other cultivators? Who cares? Since we found this brat, we must get him. With a few more groups of people, we will have absolute confidence. Buzz. Just as nearly 10,000 old fellows, who had already lost their humanity in order to survive, began to unite and form several large armies, Chen Hao, who had already sensed the fluctuations of auras around him, did not panic at all. At this time, he still completed the integration of his body in time. Violent power, like a river bursting through a dam, flowed in every cell in his body. If these old fellows had not come, Chen Hao would have released that explosive power violently. However, at this moment, Chen Hao forcefully suppressed it. On the surface, he looked extremely calm as he slowly opened his eyes. With a light flick of his wrist, he stood up. His tall and slender body stood proudly on the mountain peak like a sword. His eyes swept across the pairs of bloodthirsty and greedy eyes. Chen Hao shook his head gently. How can he be so calm? Do we look like good people? Seeing this scene, countless people were puzzled. Boom. Humph, this brat is ours. If any of you dare to interfere, don't blame us for hunting you to death. Suddenly, an old man with the strongest aura in a group of hundreds of people suddenly said sternly. As soon as he finished speaking, the hundreds of old fellows suddenly released their terrifying auras all at once. Ha ha ha. What a joke. Why are you so determined? Do you think we are weak? Boom. 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 A similarly strong army made a provocative sound at this time. This is a man-eat-man world. Suddenly, Chen Hao's indifferent voice sounded. His voice was not loud, but it completely covered the voices of all the old men. It was clearly transmitted into the ears of everyone within hundreds of thousands of miles. Everyone was shocked. Although they felt that Chen Hao's aura was extremely powerful, they had too many people, and all of them were bloodthirsty old fellows who had been on the battlefield for a long time. They had no choice. If they were not bloodthirsty, it meant that they would die. In the face of death, the most ferocious root of human nature was exposed. Survival was their only goal, and for this goal, they would pay any price. However, they did not expect this extraordinarily handsome young man, who did not show the slightest trace of fear, to display power and profundity far beyond their imagination. If you don't want to be eaten, the only way is to eat people. Voila. Well said. In just 2 short sentences, countless old men deeply agreed. This was almost the law of survival in the Hongming domain. Chen Hao swept his gaze across the crowd as he continued. Unfortunately, not everyone is willing to sacrifice their humanity for the sake of survival. All of you have reached this stage today because of your lack of humanity. Ignorant brat, who do you think you are? Although you are indeed a little strong, you are not qualified to lecture us. When you reach the end of your life and can't make a breakthrough, you will be even more ferocious and bloodthirsty than us. When you are about to reach the end of your life, you should be focused on making a final effort, but you have given up on prolonging your life. Since you have given up on your heart, how can you make a breakthrough? Chen Hao said to himself. His voice contained a vast and majestic Tao sound. Every syllable was like a blooming lotus that floated into the void, shining brightly with celestial light. At this moment, among the nearly 10,000 old men, many of them looked dazed. A rare wisp of clarity appeared in their ferocious and bloodthirsty eyes. If the cultivators of the chaotic Great Thousand Domains, especially the cultivators of the other 9 galaxies, saw Chen Hao now, they would definitely not believe that this was Chen Hao, the god of slaughter who had dominated the primitive secret realm. Chapter 1020. In the face of such existences that wanted to eat him, killing God Chen Hao should have killed them coldly and violently. But today, Chen Hao temporarily suppressed the violent feeling of power brought about by the fusion of his physical body. No one knew what kind of change Chen Hao had. It originated from Chen Nan, his younger brother. The death of his loved one made him understand that even in the cruel world of cultivation, life should be cherished. Of course, this did not mean that he had lost his decisiveness to kill, nor did it mean that he would repay evil with kindness. At this moment, if Chen Hao encountered the enemy that killed Chen Nan, he would kill them all even if they were the heavenly king. He would pierce through the sky and smash through the earth. If he encountered an existence that truly threatened the lives of his family and friends, he would also kill them all. But these old men who had lost their humanity in order to survive posed no threat to him. If he could enlighten them, there would be no need to kill them. Life was precious. Even ants would struggle to survive, let alone these existences who had reached the perfection stage in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. My heart has already given up. How can I break through? Many old men murmured as a trace of clarity appeared in their eyes. Dao sound. Kill him. Kill him. Don't be confused. This kid is very strong. Let's attack together. Boom. Suddenly, the 2 old men leading the 2 strongest legions simultaneously launched powerful and terrifying attacks at Chen Hao from afar. Seeing the 2 old men taking the lead to attack, several others immediately followed suit and attacked. Boom. Boom. We can't let them snatch it away. Kill. The balance was broken. The greedy, crazy, and completely devoid of humanity cultivators finally erupted. In an instant, countless destructive attacks enveloped Chen Hao in the center from all directions. Some attacked him forcefully, some attacked him from a distance, and some attacked the old men of the other legions. It was a chaotic scene. However, in this riot, there was an extremely small number of elders who remained unmoved. They still muttered Chen Hao's words, and their eyes became clearer and clearer. Then they suddenly realized something, as if they had woken up from a nightmare. In order to survive for countless years, they had devoid of humanity and lived a life of cannibalism. This caused them to sink into deep self-blame. Was there really any meaning in living like this? Incorrigible. Die. Bang. Rumble. Chen Hao, who stood tall, seemed to have expected such an outcome since long ago, and his calm and aloof expression became fierce to the extreme. He suddenly took a step forward, and the mountain beneath him was directly obliterated. There wasn't the slightest fluctuation of divine ability laws or true essence in his surroundings, and there was only surging blood chi that tore through the sky with a hiss. Bang. Ah. Bang 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 bang. Aha. With the release of pure physical strength, Chen Hao was like a lion that had charged into a flock of sheep. He had become a true god of death. Every punch and every kick was like a sharp fang. No one could escape from his pure physical strength. He didn't even use true essence or supernatural powers. This was the simplest, most brutal, and most direct attack. Chen Hao's surging blood energy was like refined steel. No matter how many terrifying attacks landed on his body, he didn't even blink. He was completely unmoved. His body seemed to have transformed into a human-shaped immortal soldier, invincible and indestructible. The terrifying power brought about by the fusion of the physical body was unleashed unscrupulously at this moment. The elders who had been awakened by Chen Hao's Dao voice all widened their eyes in horror. They couldn't believe their eyes. When the fierce wind swept past them, they were so scared that their hair stood on end. When they thought they were going to die, they found that Chen Hao had just swept past them. Condense. Buzz. In a moment, the space of Azura hell was created. Countless cultivators who had rushed up to snatch and kill Chun Hao were scared out of their wits. When they were about to escape, Chun Hao roared and shot out a rune that resounded through the heavens and the earth. Suddenly, a majestic pressure and endless immortal light bloomed from between his eyebrows and sealed the area within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. Before Chun Hao set up the seal, less than 1,000 people in the bloodthirsty wolf pack were able to escape. The cultivators who were sealed were basically destined to become sacrifices for Chun Hao's trial after the fusion of the physical body. Whoosh 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 whoosh. However, at this moment, countless cultivators who were scared out of their wits suddenly discovered that the energy of heaven and earth above the young monstrous cultivator, who was charging back and forth without being able to withstand a single blow from him, was suddenly gathering in a frenzy. A terrifying wave of energy of heaven and earth also spread out in all directions at an astonishing speed. Whoosh! In an instant, wild winds wreaked havoc. The thick energy of heaven and earth transformed into rolling dark clouds. The area within a radius of 10,000 miles, 100,000 miles, 1,000,000 miles, 10 million miles. It spread out in all directions at an incredible speed. Everything became pitch black, as if the end of the world had arrived. Divine punishment. After the fusion of the physical body, Chun Hao's spiritual energy and spiritual aura were released without restraint. His minor stage divine punishment had finally appeared in the Hongming domain. Bam! Rumble! The terrifying turbulence of heaven and earth directly destroyed the seal that Chun Hao had formed himself. Monster! A top-notch prodigy! Run! Run! At this moment, the elders who were so scared that they almost wet themselves frantically fled in all directions. They seized this rare opportunity to escape. Phew! The killing intent in Chun Hao's heart gradually dissipated as he raised his head to look at the void and let out a long sigh. He did not continue to chase after them. Although there were still many unsalvageable existences who would threaten countless cultivators in the future, that was not Chun Hao's problem. This was the law of the jungle in this world. Even if he killed them all, the situation would still develop in the future. No one could change that. If he encountered them, he could just kill them. If they ran away, there was no need for him to waste his energy on these weak existences. It's really fast. I just activated my spiritual energy to form the seal. When Chun Hao used his pure physical strength to kill, he did not trigger the divine punishment. However, when he activated his spiritual energy to form the seal, he did not even release it completely and directly triggered the divine punishment. This made Chun Hao slightly excited. Obviously, after the fusion of the physical body, he did not need to break in at all to enter the great perfection of the spiritual body. Furthermore, he was already at the peak of the great perfection that could not be suppressed. Then come at me more fiercely. Roar. Boom. As Chun Hao roared to the sky, his essence, qi spirit, true yuan soul power, and blood qi were all released wildly and unscrupulously at this moment. Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz. In an instant, the turbulence of heaven and earth became even more intense. Rolling dark clouds covered the void in a radius of tens of millions of miles, and it was still spreading at an alarming speed. If not for the fact that such a terrifying fluctuation did not contain Hongming Qi, all the cultivators would have thought that it was the great divine punishment for breaking through to the Hongming realm. Chapter 1021. Heavenly Punishment. Heavenly Punishment. Is someone ascending to the Hongming supremacy stage? No. This heavenly punishment is a condensation of the Hongming domain's energy. It did not cause any turbulence in the Hongming Qi, nor did it connect to the 9 heavens and 10 lands. All the cultivators within a radius of hundreds of millions of miles, or even billions of miles, looked toward the source of the turbulence. At first, most of them were filled with envy and jealousy. After all, the appearance of heavenly punishment here meant that someone was about to ascend to the Hongming realm. This was something that most ordinary cultivators would not be able to achieve even if they stayed here until they died of old age. How could they not be envious? Of course, for a small number of geniuses, the key to ascending to the Hongming realm was whether they were satisfied with the embryonic form of their great worlds. Even someone like Li Mubai could easily ascend to the Hongming realm. After all, He was a disciple of the top Hunyuan sect. In a competition like the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land, he was nothing. However, compared to 90% of the cultivators in the cultivation world, he was still much stronger. But soon, most of the cultivators sensed the turbulence caused by heavenly punishment. Although it was powerful, it did not cause any turbulence in the Hongmeng Qi, nor did it connect to the 9 heavens and 10 lands to attract energy from the outside world. Naturally, this could not be the great heavenly punishment of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. But it was precisely because of this that some of the prodigious disciples were even more shocked. How could the heavenly punishment of a minor realm be so powerful? Which prodigious prodigy stepped into the Hongmeng domain before ascending to the great circle of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland? Let's go and take a look. Most of them were cultivators who had come in groups. Out of curiosity, they all turned into streams of light and flew towards the source of the heavenly punishment. First, they wanted to see which prodigy could create such a terrifying heavenly punishment of a minor realm. Second, they wanted to use the other party's heavenly punishment to temper themselves. Perhaps under the baptism of the heavenly punishment, they would be able to improve significantly. It was also at this moment that a young woman who was sitting cross-legged on a mountain peak suddenly opened her eyes. Hongmeng Qi surged for millions of kilometers around her, and a crystal light pierced through the sky from between her eyebrows. She was clearly a young woman who had condensed the embryonic form of a great world, whose small realm heavenly punishment is so strong. Even senior brother Yin Xian couldn't compare to him back then. Strange, when did such a monster appear in Hongmeng? I've never heard of such a person in the cultivation world. There is one, but he's at the Great Circle realm. It's impossible for him to have a minor realm of heavenly punishment. Moreover, he should also be in the Holy Land of the Immortal Sutra right now. The young woman was extremely beautiful, and her aura was comparable to that of Yin Xian. Wang. The woman suddenly produced a dazzling golden symbol, directly crushing it. She was extremely curious, and she believed that her Tao companion was the same. It was also at this moment that Yin Xian, who was absorbing the vast amount of primordial energy in the desolate mountains in the depths of the primordial domain, was suddenly jolted awake. After that, a similar talisman appeared before his eyes, and then it exploded with a bang. This was the top-level communication symbol between Yin Xian and his Tao companion. Each pair was extremely valuable, and they wouldn't be used unless it was a critical moment. For his Tao companion to send a message at this time, there must be danger. How could Yin Xian not be anxious? Someone dares to touch my woman? Damn it. Yin Xian had just finished cursing when his expression suddenly became strange. He said, "There's such a powerful monster? It can't be. I've never heard of it." Yin Xian had returned to the chaotic vast thousand world 6 years ago because of Chen Hao. Even though he was in the Immortal Sutra City, he still understood the current situation of the cultivation world in the chaotic vast thousand world. Let's go and take a look. Well, inform them while we're at it. Monstrous geniuses. Humph, they must teach them a lesson. It's definitely a good thing to train such monstrous geniuses. Whoosh, whoosh. Yin Xian suddenly sent out several terrifying divine senses, which seemed to cut through the void, and went in 8 directions. Immediately after, they disappeared in the direction of his Tao companion. Whoosh, whoosh. The closer they got, the more shocked they were. When they were thousands of miles away and couldn't see, the terrifying pressure of divine punishment had reached the limit of what they could bear. Countless people had no choice but to stop. Even the strongest cultivator could only approach 8 million miles before he found it difficult to move an inch forward and stopped in shock. Who could it be? Even the divine punishment of the top monstrous geniuses in the Chaos Academy can't be so powerful. When did such a monstrous figure appear in the cultivation world? Some of the top geniuses who had just entered the Hongmeng domain were shocked. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Not long after, streaks of light flew out with all their might, as if they were carrying a mountain on their backs. These people were the old guys who wanted to eat Chen Hao. Each of them had a strong aura, but at this time, blood was oozing out of their pores. Their flying speed was even slower than that of an ordinary Daoyuo Jingxian early-stage cultivator, and each of them looked like they were about to run out of energy. Is it these old bastards? Boom. When one of the young geniuses who had stopped and didn't dare to move forward saw the old man who had escaped from the source of the heavenly punishment, his eyes flashed with a cold killing intent. He stretched out his hand and took control of an old man who had almost exhausted all his energy and brought him in front of him. Speak, who is the one who triggered the heavenly punishment? Monster. He's a monster. Don't kill me. None of us know who the other party is. You might know. He had been in the Hongming domain for hundreds of thousands of years. Although he was not completely ignorant of the outside world, he knew very little. However, these young geniuses were different. They had only been here for a short period of time. Hiss. As the old man spoke, a faint ray of light shone from between his eyebrows. Instantly, it condensed into the figure of Chen Hao and appeared in front of everyone. Whoosh. Just then a stream of light flashed by. Facing the terrifying pressure of the heavenly punishment, the figure did not seem to feel anything. It was extremely fast. When it saw the few of them, it stopped abruptly. Its eyes were filled with astonishment as it stared at the illusory figure condensed by the old man. Senior Sister Shauna? So powerful, she's Senior Sister Shauna? That's right. Shauna was the top female prodigy of the Primal Chaos College 1,000 years ago. She was the target of countless prodigies. However, she was conquered by Yin Xian, the prodigy of the Fire Lotus faction who didn't join any college, when they entered the immortal scripture sacred ground 1,000 years ago. What was more shocking was that they became a true Dao partner, declaring her undying devotion to him. Of course, the two of them wouldn't use the fusion of Yin and Yang to cultivate now. It was just a way to confirm their status. Whoosh. Shauna suddenly landed beside the few people and nodded slightly at them. Then, she looked at the captured old man and said, "Are you sure the person undergoing the minor heavenly punishment looks like this?" You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.